I am live.
Right.
And that is my dad. Done that. My dad's going now because he's only legally meant to be there for a couple of seconds. Right, let me just connect this to just giving. Also, I need to find this on YouTube. I apologize if someone actually watches this. Right, let's go. Right, let's go. Let's go with some things. Item number SCP's. Item number SCP-026. Object class Euclid. Special containment procedures. SCP-026 is to remain securely locked and boarded up at all times, and there is no research ongoing. Alarms are set to alert the Foundation in case of entry by civilians or other agents. See description. SCP-026 is a 3-story public school building built in beep. It has 2 wings connected to a central foyer. It was declared condemned in beep after it was found the floor plan didn't match up to the building's blueprint. See interview log 026-01. It came to the Foundation detention after several disappearances in the area were linked to visits to the abandoned building edit. See note 026-8. There are considerable graffiti on the interior walls of the school. Most appears typical, including gang signs and names and street art. However, the graffiti fades and reappears, changing location. Writing on chalkboards and bulletin boards changes in a similar fashion. Subjects typically found range from standard school subjects, mathematics, literature, biology, to more esoteric subjects such as quantum entanglement, and eugenics. One researcher reported one board detailing information about SCP beep. The photographic evidence showed only a blank slate. C note 026-B. The phrase the children used to sing has appeared multiple times in various places throughout the building, but there is currently no explanation for its significance. A number of unconscious subjects have been found in the building, mostly high school age, ranging from 12 to 18. They are dressed in accordance to school dress code circa beep. Some have been identified as former students or faculty of the school who just disappeared after the school shut down. In at least one case, more than 10 years after the closure, it is currently unknown how they were transported back to SCP-026. C note 026-C. All attempts to wake the subjects while inside the building have failed. One being removed from the grounds of SCP-026. Subjects wake abruptly. They experience a motor period of confusion before dying from extremely rapid dehydration, followed by advanced decomposition. No useful intelligence has been recovered from the subjects to date. The inability to wake subjects extends to those who fall asleep on the grounds of SCP-026, so the rapid dehydration only seems to affect those who have been found on the grounds of the school. See incident report 026-12. Note 026-8. Robotic exploration and video feeds from the apparent spatial noise found by changes in the perception of observers rather than actual spatial phenomena. For this reason, SCP-026 does not require the expertise of mobile task force Row 8 roadside picnics at this time. Update. Further exploration has shown that some spatial phenomena do occur. See the exploration logs for more details. Note 026-B. The contents of notepad, books, and pieces of paper have been observed to disappear only to reappear on surfaces when SCP-026. New writings have appeared mostly drawn from graffiti or text, with caution to be exercised in bringing documents onto the grounds of SCP-026. Note 026-D. Several Class D personnel exposed to SCP-026 have disappeared from the Foundation control, only to reappear inside the anomalous building. Subjects in question have previously complained of dreams identical to those experienced by Agent Malak. Update. See interview log 026-08. Incident report 026-1. During a routine security check of SCP-026, Agent Malak was found unconscious by his partner, Agent Jones, in the main foyer. Initial attempts of rousing Agent Malak were ineffective, so he was moved transportation to Site B. Upon leaving the grounds of SCP-026, he woke abruptly in a state of agitation. When questioned, he revealed that he had been dreaming of a classroom setting. This dream was in concentrate. Also, they had fallen asleep within the grounds of SCP-026. Nice. We've hit the Vermin God. Item number SCP-027, object collection of the federal containment trees. The host of SCP-027, currently subject 027-02, is to be kept in a 5 meter by 5 meter containment cell with a grated raised floor connected to a strong vacuum system. All creatures removed from the subject containment cell to be incinerated, except for a small portion to be diverted for analysis and necropsy. The cells to be cleaned and inspected for structural damage daily. Subject SCP-027-02 must be monitored by at least 2 personnel at all times. Any unusual behavior or vital signs on the part of the subject or the appearance of any unusual species in the subject facility must immediately be reported to level 4 personnel. Security personnel assigned to SCP-027 must be inoculated against all non-animal-borne pathogens and must be armed with tranquilizer guns withstanding or to subdue the subject if the need arises. Until SCP-027 is better understood, no personnel of level 4 clearance or higher should approach within 200 meters of the subject. Description: SCP-027 appears to be a phenomenon of unknown source that seems to be tied to one even subject, currently at 027-02 at this time. As a host to SCP-027, subject 027-02 is constantly surrounded by swarming vermin that are drawn to his location. The subject does not appear able to assert control over these creatures in any way and is in fact prone to occasional attacks from feral specimens. These creatures have also been known to attack personnel who approach too closely. Wherever the subject goes, an initial swarm of flying insects such as gnats and flies will start to form a cloud around him, usually within 2 to 3 minutes. Shortly thereafter, crawling animals, including lice, cockroaches, worms, spiders, data-expunged mice, and rats will begin to appear. The longer a subject remains in a location, the more vermin will gather there. When the subject leaves the location, some of these creatures will fall, but most will disperse. SCP-027 has been known as transfer between host and one, and so on the deaths of the first known host subject 027-01. See Appendix 1 for more information. Since SCP-027 could likely repeat this feat upon the death of subject 027-02, all high-value personnel should be kept far away from the current host until NORA SCP-027 is understood. SCP-027 is also likely transferred between hosts an unknown number of times before containment research into potential previous hosts has commenced with preliminary evidence suggesting that SCP-027 may have existed for at least years. It is not yet known how SCP-027 chooses or attracts animals, or even what SCP-027 exactly is. The previous host never expressed any sort of communication with the separate conscious entities. Analysis of the current host has been inconclusive at best. Appendix 1, timeline of significant events. 04 beep 1990 beep. Subject 027-01 is discovered in an abandoned warehouse outside beep beep. There's been completely overrun by rats, cockroaches, and other vermin, and is contained in catalogues of SCP-027. The subject is described as a close-skinned male and is like the average height, but gaunt, filthy, and covered in bites and scratches. The subject also shows symptoms of degraded mental health and evidence of heavy use of alcohol and illicit drugs and signs of prolonged sleep deprivation. 10 beep 2000 beep. Subject XY. The autopsy shows more than 70% of the subject's body data expunged. A colony of rats nesting in the subject's abdomen for at least beep generations. 10 beep 2000 beep. Between 140 and 150 hours after the subject's death, security officer beep beep reports being awoken by breathing problems due to a large housefly having crawled up his nose, later shown to have lain next. Subsequent observations led to categorization of officer beep as subject 027-02. The original host is reclassified as subject 027-01, and SCP-027 is redefined. Data expunged. Appendix 2 transferred into the 027-01. The following interview was conducted on 10 beep 2000 beep. Shortly after subject 027-02 was identified and translated to the containment cell that had housed subject 027-01. Dr. Jameson, good morning, officer. Beep, how are you feeling? Subject 027-02, scared, confused, mostly scared though. J, understandable. S, and I feel like I need to shout all the expletive time. J, but what about inside? Do you feel anything different inside you, like a presence? S, thinks, scratches his head. No, I don't think I do. I haven't really noticed anything like that. J, you haven't felt anything different since the original host died beside the string. S, no, I can't say I have. J, what about any thoughts of voices or compulsions? S, agitated. No, I haven't felt anything except bugs crawling all over me. I feel dirty and scared and awkward about my family. You gotta get this thing off me so I can see them again. J, of course, we're doing everything we can to get 027 out of you. God, I'm sorry. Beep. No, shortly after this interview took place, Dr. James and several other members of the research team for SCP-027 were transferred to the SCP-1772 project. Item number SCP-028 object lost state special containment procedures. No special means needs to contain at this time, as SCP-028 is not shown any change in size, position, or shape during the entire period of containment, but access must be restricted to currently SCP-028 is contained on site beep, as SCP-028 is not transportable by any known means. SCP-028 is concealed in a 6x6x3 meter 20x20x10 foot concrete room with a single door with 2 armed personnel stationed outside. Only authorized personnel to be allowed exposure to SCP-028, and extreme care must be taken at all times. While SCP-028 is itself harmless, the effect can be very damaging to the unprepared. See document EL-028-1125. Description: SCP-028 is located in an abandoned storage yard outside of Coppermine in northern Michigan. SCP-028 has no detectable physical presence of any kind, but its effect occurs within 2.1 meters, 7 foot cube around what is commonly held as the center of SCP-028. All forms of scanning and testing of the area of SCP-028 have shown no abnormal readings. Adding or removing objects or attempting to remove dirt from under SCP-028 has no effect on altering the size or shape of SCP-028's area or affecting the onset or quality of the effect. Subjects entering SCP-028 are within 3 to 6 seconds struck by total and complete knowledge of the subject. This knowledge is thus far completely random in both size and usefulness, and sometimes goes unnoticed for extended periods of time. More profound knowledge generally has a stronger effect, with some cases expunged. See document EL-028-1125. This fact can be experienced multiple times by exiting and re-entering SCP-028, but can result in increasingly strong migraines and dizziness after 2 exposures. SCP-028 came to the Foundation's attention after research into news reports of a local miner who submitted a design for a cold fusion reactor to the U.S. Patent Office. Mr. Beep reported that it just came to me like a bolt out of the blue. News and subjects are suppressed and contained after discovery of SCP-028 and the reactor designed implemented in the containment of SCP-1995. Subsequent testing of SCP-028 has yielded mixed results. Document EL-028-111114 partial information retrieval log for 1-5 beep. Notable knowledge is perfect, total, and detic. Every phone book entry for New York City in 1998. How to redesign the internal combustion engine to run with human blood using only pre-existing parts. Note, the full redesign takes 4 hours and runs at higher efficiency than gasoline. Location of keys for a weak Lasiabro. The proper method of care for a mole rat colony. Origin and history of 12 SCP objects. Note, the main expunged. Family history of the Blackthorn family, located in London, England. Geological structure of the Earth beneath Greenland, including several unknown caves and expunged. Document EL-028-1125. Log E112. Subject D1182 exposed to SCP-028. Subject began to cry and went into fetal position, showing signs of high distress. Unresponsive questioning an outside stimulus for several days. Lapsed into catatonia shortly after, stating that this is not life. Subject passed into a coma and died shortly thereafter. COD is attributed to shock. E127. Agent B was accidentally exposed to SCP-028. Agent showed signs of sudden surprise and amusement. When questioned, the agent requested a moment to gather my thoughts, please. After several seconds, agent laughed, shook his head, and removed his service pistol from his holster. Agent then shot and wounded Dr. Beep and killed agents Beep and Beep before being framed. Post-incident interrogation revealed Agent Beep had extensive knowledge of classifying Foundation activities and several SCP objects he had not been previously exposed to, including SCP-2669. Any Foundation personnel found to have entered SCP-028's area are affected to be detained indefinitely. Document EL-028-1128 log. Experiment 189. Subject B9843 was exposed to SCP-028 beep 039-1146. Examination of subject revealed normal respiratory actions. Beep 03-19-30-97. Questioning revealed subject had learned to recycle the carbon dioxide inside his body. Beep 03-19-17-21. Repeated attempts to teach skill to other D-class personnel failed. Beep 03-24-12-11. Subject terminated. Beep 7-18-15-03. Autopsy reveals no normal organ formations. Researchers necessary. Beep 07-18-18-37. Researchers notes. Dr. Beep. Seriously, how the expletive did he do that? Item number SCP-029, Object Class Key to Special Containment Procedures. SCP-029 is to be incarcerated in a Class 5 containment cell. She is to be allowed access to nothing of a physical nature. Her containment cell is to be placed behind a triple R lock to avoid her escape. As of Incident 029-34A, SCP-029 is no longer to be fed as she does not appear to need sustenance to survive. There are to be 3 guards on duty at all times on her cell and 2 guards on monitor duty. The floodlights have been installed in the walls of the containment chamber and are to be on at all times. Once a month, the chamber is to be cleaned and checked for defects. Under absolutely no circumstances or any men to encounter SCP-029 in any manner. Any male to do encounter SCP-029 to be held under Class 3 detention for interviewing before termination. SCP-029 has requested a bed denied, a blanket denied, books denied, clothes denied. This is ridiculous. The girl can't even have clothes. Why not animals? Let her cover herself. Dr. Erica Bodine. Dr. Bodine, you're granted permission to deliver clothes to SCP-029. Dr. White. As of Incident 029-53, anyone who has potential access to SCP-029 is required to first watch surveillance tape 029-Bodine as a reminder of threats involved when working with SCP items and SCP-029 in particular. Description: SCP-029 appears to be a pubescent female of Asiatic Indian descent. She appears to suffer from alopecia universalis. Over 80% of her pigmentation is a true black, while the rest of her skin has a complete lack of melanin to the point of albinism. Her eyes are also a dark black in color. SCP-029 has severe homicidal tendencies and has displayed a remarkable ability to use any item as a weapon. However, she has a severe compulsion against shedding blood, preferring instead to strangle her victims. SCP-029 has demonstrated dexterity and physical reactions 4 times as fast as the average human. SCP-029 has also displayed extensive resistance to damage of all forms. Both of these extra human abilities are greatly hampered in the presence of bright or direct light, natural or artificial. In addition, any males who come within the presence of SCP-029 in an area defined by her current protection find themselves apply into her will such males become willing to kill or even die for SCP-029. SCP-029 refers to herself as Beep, which roughly translates to Daughter of Darkness, Daughter of Shadows, or Daughter of Night. Interviews with SCP-029 have proven difficult to conduct due to SCP-029's constant attempt to kill or convert all who speak with her. Over her years of captivity, the black patches on her skin have increased in size. SCP-029 was first brought into the Foundation's attention by an agent working in rural and during an attempt on his life led him to a small cult of men who came to be thuggies in service to the daughter. Several weeks of investigation proved that they believed the world to be in the last years of the Kali Yuga, and that by sacrificing 1 million lives to the Daughter of Darkness, they could raise their goddess and end the world. They also believed that only sacrifices performed through strangulation added to us tally. Events led the agent to their mountain fortress where he discovered SCP-029. After the law of said agent, data expunged, pretended an acquisition of SCP-029 addendum. 7 years after capture, SCP-029 began showing anomalous growth in her black pigmentation. When questioned about it, she claimed her followers were on the move once more. Investigation led us to a concentration of so-called thuggies that escaped their initial fray. After discovering that all our followers were there for one of their holy days, a tactical airstrike was called in. When the first bomb dropped, SCP-029 woke from slumber, screaming at the top of her lungs. SCP-029 continued to scream for the next 4 hours, ranting and raving that we were killing her people. Since that event, the growth of black pigmentation has stopped completely. Also, since that event, SCP-029 has redoubled her efforts to escape. SCP-2820 has been proposed as a possible method of neutralization since should the situation worsen. Item number SCP-030 Object Class Safe Special Containment Procedures. SCP-030 is to be held at Site 17 with a modified humanoid containment cell. Minor adaptations to accommodate its nature, such as an appropriately scaled workplace and chair, are to be included. Lighting within the cell may be altered upon request of SCP-030. To a maximum of 2,000 lumens via a simple dimmer switch. Should the need to render SCP-030 unauthorized, staff may extinguish the lighting from the exterior switch and draw blackout curtains as necessary. Standard night vision equipment is available for observation of SCP-030 in its inert state. SCP-030 may request materials for personal research every 90 days. All previously requested materials are to be collected and destroyed prior to delivery of new materials. All materials will be evaluated and destroyed by both research and security staff. SCP-030 is to be denied access to any modern scientific journals or text and fiction is to be restricted to works produced no later than 1623 CE to preserve the integrity of its innate knowledge. Staff wishing to consult with SCP-030 in writing and to place a formal request document 030-RS/B with supervising research on duty. All correspondence is to be retained. Staff wishing to consult with SCP-030 in to submit a formal request to site management document 030/RP/A17-030-A at least 30 days prior to their preferred consultation. All consultations to be recorded and retained. Senior research staff may request SCP-030 to be temporarily removed from its containment for a maximum of 1 hour to provide observational insight into non-restricted materials or events within Site-17. Under no circumstances is SCP-030 to leave the confines of Site-17. Requests must be presented in person to site management and security staff at least 30 days prior to their provided observational release. All observational release dates to be recorded and detained. SCP-030 has been equipped with a tracking device. Inventory control code 030-17-1, so its location within Site-17 may be determined precisely at any time. Description: SCP-030 appears as a hairless, genderless, grey-toned human, 71 centimeters, 28 inches in height, and weighing 12.70 kilograms. 2 British stone and antiquated meteorites. Solid blue eyes, lack discernible irises or pupils, and resemble small-cut sapphire. The SCP-030 possesses an androgynous voice with a pronounced English accent, not currently identifiable or specific to any one region. It is able to converse, read, and write in ancient Greek, Latin, Italian, English, Spanish, and Portuguese, as well as 2 additional languages that have not yet been identified, despite SCP-030's insistence that they should be common knowledge. SCP-030 has demonstrated knowledge of physics, chemistry, astronomy, mathematics, and horticulture, roughly equivalent to that of a 17th century CE academic. In addition, SCP-030 has demonstrated knowledge on these topics along research lines that do not appear in the historical record. These alternative or entirely unknown approaches to research in the natural sciences are one source of SCP-030's utility and consultation. SCP-030 remains active while 15 lumen source of light or greater is within 1.5 meters, 5 feet. In the absence of light, SCP-030 becomes inert, apparently losing consciousness and showing no outward signs of life within 5 to 10 seconds of being re-exposed to light. SCP-030 becomes active once more, appearing to come out of light slumber no matter how long the period of inactivity is. But SCP-030 does not appear to require these periods of inactivity, as a human requires sleep, and this is expressed a desire to remain active as often as possible. Biopsy analysis of SCP-030 remains inconclusive. While clays native to the English counties of Kent, Surrey, and Greater London make up the majority of its structure, traces of Mandragoria fishing out from lime, mercury, and human blood have been found in each sample taken. SCP-030 was expressed that a full exploratory surgery to determine its workings would potentially end its existence. Samples removed from SCP-030 do not regenerate, and sampling is currently discontinued to preserve its integrity. Although SCP-030 can be damaged, it does not appear to feel pain and will simply remold any portion of its anatomy that experiences deformation. Notably, SCP-030 cannot be molded directly by human hands, though any number of tools may be used to alter its surface. SCP-030 does not rest, but it requires no sustenance and produces no waste, although it doesn't frequently request the bath. SCP-030 refers to itself as Ariel and regularly requests that staff do the same. Questions regarding how SCP-030 was created and by whom are routinely answered with a seemingly rote statement, "I have been asked to forget that bit of information, terribly sorry." SCP-030 delivers that response in the same tone and cadence each time any question regarding its origins or creators are presented. Given its composition and location of origin, a link to the alchemists of Alagar is suspected. SCP-030 was discovered 6/12 during a mandatory archaeological survey within London's Mortlake district, pending construction of a car park. It was buried approximately 2.7 meters, 9 feet below street level, contained in a small stone sarcophagus. The sarcophagus bore no markings and was assumed to be that of a deceased as additional graves were discovered in the survey area. The sarcophagus list was shattered during the excavation, exposing SCP-030 to daylight. Upon being struck by the sun's rays, SCP-030 roused from its inert state with mild activity within a few seconds, stating "Good afternoon" to the assembled construction team. A member of the Foundation's Greater London Recon Force was summoned within hours and took the into custody without resistance. A limited number of witnesses were given amnestics and released. Addendum 1, Document 030 Security Logs for SCP-030-914 beep tracking system installed for SCP-030-1221 beep SCP-030 reports malfunction of its own tracking system. Repairs completed within 6 hours. SCP-030 officer assist with refused security passes 313 beep SCP-030 completes 18-week seminar on unknown language alpha Zephyr. 5 staff researchers conserving fluent lexicography can transmitted to 205 beep 72 beep. One consultation researcher beep inadvertently makes several remarks regarding photovoltaic technology. Consultation ended before the researcher can substantively elaborate. 812 beep. SCP-030 requests a supply of magnesium and indicates it intends to ignite samples to study the light produced. Request denied by researchers. 1114 beep. Incident Incident 030-1 using only what appears to be a standard potting soil ginger Zingibilia a 72-gram sample of rutilated quartz and 23cm length of coiled copper wire. SCP-030 produced an object observation device capable of emitting notable levels of directed ultraviolet light through unknown means. Despite the device is confiscated, effect not currently replicable without direct intervention from SCP-030. There are researchers currently in consultation to determine if this line of SCP-030's research will be permitted to continue. It is speculated that SCP-030 may be working towards an alternative and possibly anomalous manifestation of the photoelectric effect after receiving only minimal information regarding its existence. Full research regarding by SCP-030 suspending materials removed pending review. Item number SCP-031 Object Class Data on Containment Please. SCP-031 is to be contained in a standard containment chamber located in Site 77 Safe SCP. When personnel interacting with SCP-031 are not to view it directly and communicate with test subjects through an intercom system installed in each chamber. The containment chamber is to be cleaned once per week by custodial staff wearing opaque goggles to mitigate SCP-031's effect. Description: SCP-031 is an opaque is an amorphous organism with a mass of 75 kilograms. SCP-031 is capable to move at a pace of 3 kilometers per hour and leaves a trail of oil when it moves. It is only capable of rudimentary physical movement. Testing of recovered tissue samples has shown that SCP-031 is at least partially composed of human muscle and epidermal tissue. SCP-031 is capable of reproducing human speech in any pitch or tone, although it is not currently known how SCP-031's biology produces them. Subjects directly perceiving SCP-031 will see it as an individual subjects knew and had a romantic attraction to at some point in their past. When made aware that it is being observed, SCP-031 will claim to be this person and that they have been left destitute by some event in their past. SCP-031 will use this to attempt to persuade the subject to allow it to stay with them for an extended period of time until it is able to return to a stable situation. This effect applies to all persons who view SCP-031. Research has not determined an upper limit to the number of persons who can be affected by SCP-031 at the same time. After inspecting the residents, SCP-031 may attempt to start a romantic relationship with the subject, and if successful, will begin living in their home. Several cases have been documented where SCP-031 began to actively affect more than one subject at a time, eventually having a nest containing between at least 18 different hotel rooms containing subjects with some form of relation to SCP-031. SCP-031 was recovered following contradictory police records taken after a riot and redacted. Multiple subjects recorded wildly contradictory views about SCP-031's appearance. Initial civilian units were also affected. However, wide distribution of amnesiacs and inhaled tranquilizers pacified all affected subjects, and MTF Psi-7 was able to recover SCP-031 from the condemned hotel as a taken resident. And as of 11/16/1958, SCP-031 has been classified as safe. Addendum: researchers suggested that aromantic subjects are not affected by SCP-031. However, all of these subjects will report SCP-031 being a small, plump humanoid figure with specific features being obscured by dark smoke emanating around the empty and the shape of SCP-031's body. Further testing is required to explain this phenomenon. Further testing has shown that the perception of subjects affected by SCP-1937 is similarly affected. Item number SCP-031 2. Object Class Euclid. Special containment procedures. SCP-032 is to be housed and stand in automated containment unit 535/15. Direct contact with SCP-032 is to be restricted to research relevant tasks only. Interviews, if deemed necessary, are to be carried out using the unit's remote communication array. While SCP-032's presence is not directly harmful to the human body, exposure to it is to be limited to periods of 12 hours or less due to its adverse effects on most beneficial microorganisms. SCP-032 is not to be exposed to any biological material not refined or otherwise tempered by humanity, with an emphasis on non-human living entities. For a full list of classifications, see document 032-RCL. SCP-032 requires no requested substances or other forms of for SCP's description, SCP-032 is a type F and perfect external resemblance and internally inconsistent human simulation of currently unknown origins. It is composed of outer shell of pigmented silicon, 5.5 millimeters thick, and of various plastic fiber polymers, with the outward appearance of a Corsican woman nearing the third decade of her life. SCP-032's interior is composed entirely of a liquid frindora, lacking any skeletal or muscle structure. Besides this, SCP-032 is capable of locomotion and speech. SCP-032 is capable of maintaining the illusion of humanity at a moderate distance, but becomes unconvincing terrain, causing mild discomfort in most observers. This effect has been deemed non-anomalous. Despite apparently possessing fully realized cognitive abilities, SCP-032 claims it is not sapient, acting only as an intermediary instrument of its creators. The Foundation has not been able to verify or refute this claim as of yet. SCP-032 possesses extreme adverse effects to a biological entity, including not created willfully, influenced, manipulated, or similarly relating to humanity. While the exact nature of these effects SCP-032's presence inevitably cause severe and irreparable damage to the ability of any living organism to exchange and or use energy. Fauna of the use of its respiratory and digestive systems, etc. This applies to microorganisms as well, though SCP-032's effects seem to favor damage to their reproductive systems. Instead, it is hypothesized that the symbiotic relation to some microorganisms have to humanity is the reason for this discrepancy. SCP-032 was discovered sitting on the doorstep of the inner compound of the Foundation site, near Slovakia. When questioned by Foundation security personnel, SCP-032 explained its anomalous effects and claimed that it was there to be stored surveillance footage, so no record of the time of its arrival, and it is not yet known how SCP-032 came to know Site Beep's location or approach it without being swatted. When asked for its reason for seeking Foundation custody, SCP-032 claimed that it was there at the command of its creators, seeking indefinite storage until claimed the then interview 032-A. Note, this interview was recorded near the time of SCP-032's initial containment by Dr. Alexander Kovac, Site Beep's resident psychologist, following its initial examination by Site Security. Begin log. Dr. Kovac, before we begin, there's something I feel I should ask, using security so often neglects doing. So it's not strictly conforming to protocol, but I find it tends to make things easier. SCP-032, I was instructed to cooperate. Dr. Kovac, very good. Tell me then, what is your name? SCP-032, I don't have one. People have names, I'm not one. Dr. Kovac, is that so? What did your so-called creators call you then? SCP-032, they didn't. Dr. Kovac, surely they had to refer to you somehow. SCP-032, I am a vessel of their will and nothing else. They never needed to call, they never will. Dr. Kovac, in that case, would you mind if I refer to you as SCP-032? To SCP-032, I was instructed to cooperate. Dr. Kovac, so you said. Tell me then, what is the purpose of your coming here? I am to be stored here until collected. Dr. Kovac, security told me that much, but why here and collected by whom? SCP-032, collected by the ones they wish to torment and stored here because in finding me here, he will suffer further. Dr. Kovac, is that so? Is that person you refer to part of this organization? Then do your creators bear some grudge towards a particular operative? Dr. SCP-032, he is not one of you merely a one-time sympathizer of sorts. He believes you tried to help him once, and if he is forced here, if he finds me here, you will die. That will hurt him. They have no interest in any of you, nor your organization. You are here as a tool, just as I am. Who is this? Dr. Kovac, who is this man then? What did he do to earn this sort of treatment from your creators? SCP-032, he did not know his place. One when he should have lost, was proud when he should have been humbled, was wasteful of a gift too precious for abuse. Dr. Kovac, and you are here as punishment. SCP-032, he was already punished severely, forced away from kindergarten to endlessly wander to destroy against his will to poison humanity by his very presence. Eternal solitude, flavored by ceaseless guilt, a masterwork of torment, they say. Dr. Kovac, if that's the case, why are you here? Why did I say that so loudly? SCP-032, because even in this existence, there is the occasional moment of solace. At times he may yet look to the world and see things he will not destroy. Look to nature and feel warm wonder, unbarking the false light of ancient mouldy memories. It keeps him sane, gives him hope that will not serve. Hence my presence. I am here to be his last undoing, a hastening to the end of raising Dr. Kovac. And how will your presence do that? Are you meant to deceive him in some way? Is that why you look the way you do? SCP-032, in a manner of speaking, eventually his wanderings will lead him here to me in a day or a month or a century, and he will recognize me and see what they think of his precious memories, how they mock him. He will understand, but because of his action, she is forever beyond us. To him as me, a simulate from his artificial as his hope. When he finds me, I will attach himself to him, and he will watch the mockery of his memories, destroy his last source of source, and that will be that. Dr. Kovac, he said he will recognize you. Why? SCP-032, I used to be his wife, and look. Interview 032-B. No, this interview was held 6 months following SCP-032's initial containment as part of a series of interviews meant to evaluate SCP-032's cognitive abilities and personality, or lack thereof. Begin log. SCP-032, I hate her. Dr. Kovac, well, that's certainly a way to start an interview. Care to elaborate? SCP-032, the one who was made to look like my mold. I hate her. Dr. Kovac, an interesting sentiment for you to have, considering your repeated assurance that you possess no consciousness or feelings of your own. SCP-032, I don't. I hate her because they want me to. It serves their purpose. Dr. Kovac, how do you get that impression? SCP-032, the first thing they did after creating her was to show her to me. It's not something they often do. Dr. Kovac, I don't follow. SCP-032 interfere with those who pass beyond their halls. They might just be vengeful, spiteful, full, even cruel, but they take their duties very seriously. Just to show her to me, to risk disturbing her final rest, they wouldn't do that without a purpose. Dr. Kovac, and SCP-032, she was beautiful, so peaceful, serene, whole. Even gone, she was even dead. I could see the absence of who she used to be, of who she still was and forever will be. Her soul. They told me that she didn't that she didn't get to live for all that long, but when she lived, she was herself. She was alive, and so I hated her. SCP-032, do you know what it feels like to be made as a mockery? In every line of that smooth, silent face, I saw a twisted reflection in my own. Fragrant skin to molded plastic, soft head, synthetic firewood, blood to oil, soul to nothing. To Dr. Kovac, excuse me if this sounds presumptuous, but I can't imagine feelings like this coming from anywhere but yourself. SCP-032 shakes head. Can't you see? This is all part of their plan. When he finds me, when he sees what the brothers have created just to punish them further, he'll go mad. Dr. Kovac, because of what they did to the memory of his wife, SCP-032, not only that, because he'll see how much I hate her and how much I hate myself for not being. I hate being here at all. And then what? SCP-032 to a final realization, Dr. Kovac, and what would that be? SCP-032, he never won. End log. This is a stupidly long article. Item number SCP-033, object class equals spelling and naming procedures. SCP-033 has been described on a single sheet of regularly shaped handcrafted paper, papyrus, of canvas or vellum, not involved in active observation or study. The dimensions of the paper-like product should have no parallel borders, no right angles, and no side length should be equal to any other 033 safe dimensions. When contained in this manner, the paper-like product should be secured in a locked non-combination storage vault at least 30 meters for any computing or recording device. Logs for checkout or check-in of SCP-033 should be filled out at the minimum safe distance of 30 meters to avoid possible contamination of the paper product or electronic device the log is kept in. When removed for study, SCP-033 can be copied to a white/chalkboard with SCPs with 033 safe dimensions by Class C staff. One transferred to the white/chalkboard. The paper-like product that has contained SCP-033 should be incinerated. Observation and study should take place in a secure conference or at least 30 meters from any computing or recording device for the maximum 25 60-second viewing window. And all observations will not should be made on SCP-033 safe materials. Under no circumstances should any notes regarding SCP-033 leave the storage facility or be input into a computing or recording device. At precisely 2,000 seconds of viewing, research must stop an SCP-033 should be transferred to a new 033 safe paper-like product and returned to storage by Class D staff. The white chalkboard utilized in research must be incinerated as soon as possible after the transfer is complete, regardless of whether SCP-033 is faded naturally from from its surface at 2560 seconds. Whether 033 safe procedures halt or merely slow down the delete trace effect to SCP-033 is unknown. It is theorized the irregular borders and handcrafting by mathematically unpredictable means somehow disrupt the logic which allows SCP-033 to function. Description: SCP-033 appears as a field of complex mathematical symbols ranging from simple layman identifiable representations to those only interpretable by highly trained mathematicians. The sum of the symbols is equal to a previously unknown integer designated data prime by Professor Hutchins on an intermediate value between beep and beep. As all modern mathematical calculations upon lacking the knowledge or use of SCP-033, its introduction into any system organized without it begins eroding the numerical and eventually structural integrity of said system. This canvas extends to SCP-033's transfer to any paper-like, defined as paper, vellum, papyrus, canvas, surface, not possessing 033 safe dimensions or any computing or recording devices input into if inscribed on any other material. SCP-033 fades into unintelligibility in precisely 2560 seconds. In addition, SCP-033 is shown an ability to leap from SCP-033 safe material to a manufacturer electronic material in which it can destabilize in at least one instance. Incident report 033-D requiring the institution of a 30-meter safe distance for electronic devices and paper-like products without a 033 safe dimension. There is currently no 033 safe specification for electronic storage. Of the operational research projects involving SCP-033 are dedicated to finding such a method. Finding such a method for electronic storage. Operational research projects dedicated to the application of SCP-033 as a neutralizing factor for potentially hostile machine logic-based SCP objects. Clarifying commentary from Professor Hutchinson after first observation. Transcript edited for clarity. Professor Hutchinson: every school child knows that 2 plus 2 is 4. The solid mathematical certainty of numerical order and value is the basis for all logic-based systems. We know that after 2 comes 3 and after 3 comes 4. This formula proves that we missed a number somewhere. Imagine if all our technology was based on the belief that after 4 came 6. We simply didn't know or conceive of 5. That is, in essence, what this formula proved. We missed a number. Professor Hutchinson: I can't tell you why the handcrafted vellum works best. I can only surmise that it displaces mathematical predictability in 2 ways. 1, the irregularity in the crafting process leads to human error serves to eliminate any traces of regularity that would be found in the machine-created products. 2, the irregular borders seem to confuse it somehow, as if it gets locked up for looking into a pattern to identify and use an escape hatch. I'll tell you this, though I don't think it should be left on anything longer than a few days. It will find a pattern eventually. Professor Hutchinson: I don't think it destroys anything. I think it tries integrating itself into our system, and our system can't hold it. It's like trying to cram another book into a full bookshelf. If you get a hammer, you can get it in there, but the whole shelf bursts eventually. If it gets out onto the internet, we'll probably experience a full IT infrastructure collapse within hours. Document 033-2, test results, trial 033 Delta 5. SCP-033 is inscribed onto a single sheet of standard 8.5 by 11 inch manufactured white copy paste paper, hereafter X1, a second sheet of identical paper, hereafter X2, placed 30 centimeters away. 80 seconds, symbol consistent with the content of SCP-033 began appearing on X2, X1 unchanged. 160 seconds, full content of SCP-033's formulae appear on the surface of X2, X1 unchanged. 320 seconds, S1, X1, X2 both appear wet, symbol still visible. 640 seconds, X1 is roughly 1 part apparently water and 5 parts pulp-like substance, still filling approximately 8.5 by 11 inch flat plane. Symbols become unintelligible. X2 still appears wet, symbols visible. 1280 seconds, X1 no longer visible at all. Liquid parts seem to have evaporated. Pulp-like substance apparently sublimated. X2 now roughly 1 part liquid and 5 parts pulp-like substance, that's still filling an 8.5 by 11 inch flat plane. Symbols unintelligible. 2560 seconds, X2 no longer visible at all. Liquid parts seem to have evaporated. Pulp-like substance apparently sublimated. Please stop with the stupidly long articles. Item number SCP-034 Object Class A. Physical containment proceeded. SCP-034 is to be kept in a secure room with access granted only to level 4 personnel. SCP-034 itself will be kept in a lock case that is under 24-hour surveillance. When not in lab conditions, SCP-034's protective sheets cannot be removed under any circumstances. Any personnel in contact with SCP-034 must be placed under a 24-hour observation period until their identities can be confirmed. Description: SCP-034 is a primitive knife constructed out of pure obsidian. Tests reveal that SCP-034 is approximately 1,000 years old. Despite its crude methods of construction and age, SCP-034 is still incredibly sharp and requires no maintenance. Trying to retain its expert analysis hypothesizes that SCP-034 may be of South American origin and that it may have been used in Native American rituals. Several accounts from Spanish exploring the beep reasons support this hypothesis, with details writing on how beep priests would flay their victims alive with similar knives and wear their skin as a tribute to the gods. SCP-034 has the ability to allow its bearer to take on the appearance of another individual. If SCP-034 is used to cut a piece of flesh from a living individual, and that piece of flesh is placed against the skin of another individual, the second individual will take on not only the appearance but all physical characteristics of the first individual. Testing has shown that the minimum amount of skin required can be as little as 1 square centimeter. However, testing has also revealed that the amount of time transformation loss is directly proportional to the amount of flesh used. The ratio of time the transformation loss the flesh uses has been measured at approximately 1 hour for every square centimeter. Once the time limit has passed, the affected individual will revert to their original form. Analysis of SCP-034's ability shows that its methods of mimicking other individuals is nearly flawless. Not only does SCP-034 change its bearer's physical appearance, but their actual physical attributes as well, including height, weight, muscle mass, bone density, hair growth, height, strength, physical medical conditions, and even DNA. The only physical traits that are not carried over in the transformation process are wounds caused by SCP-034 itself. Subjects still retain their original personality and memories while transformed, even though the process is nearly instantaneous, taking only a few seconds. Even test subjects have described the transformation process as extremely painful. Subjects may also suffer psychological trauma depending on the extent of their physical transformation. Side effects are especially serious if the subject takes on the appearance of a person with differing gender or with wildly different physical attributes. However, in order to function properly, the individuals who have their flesh cut off by SCP-034 must still be biologically alive to maintain the transformation. Should the individual whose identity has been stolen expire, the effect immediately wears off. Further details may be found in Lab Report 034A. How also SCP-034 appears to work on human subjects. Only appears to work on human subjects. Cross-species experiments with SCP-034 have resulted in data expunged. SCP-034 came to Foundation for that when an imposter disguised as Dr. Beep attempted to infiltrate Site Beep. The imposter was apprehended when authorities discovered the real Dr. Beep tied up in his home with a large portion of his right arm skinned. Further details may be found in Post-Interrogation Report 2211. Lab Report 034A. We've decided to test several scenarios dealing with the limits of SCP-034's abilities. Test 1. Sample taken from the deceased demon cadaver and applied to subject for D452. There is no observable effect. Test 2. Sample taken from D532 and applied to D452. D452 successfully mimics D532's appearance. Upon termination of D532, D452 immediately reverts back to original form. Test 3. Sample taken from D433 while under a medically induced coma and applied to subject D452. D452 successfully mimics D433's appearance and manages to maintain the transformation and consciousness. Test 4. Sample taken from a brain dead medical patient who has suffered a massive brain hemorrhage and applied to D452. D452 successfully mimics the patient's appearance but immediately loses consciousness upon transformation. D452 does not remain conscious until the transformation period expires. D452 retains no memory of the event. Test 5. Sample taken from D625 who suffered a broken arm due to a confrontation with security staff. D452 successfully mimics D625's appearance, including the broken arm. D452 broken arm is remanded when the transformation period expires. Test 6. Sample taken from a terminally ill medical patient and applied to D452. The patient's terminal illness was caused by an inherent genetic defect. D452 successfully mimics the patient's appearance as well as the patient's illness. Both the terminally ill patient and D452 expire at the same time, after which D552 D452 reverts back to original form. Test 7. Sample taken from a chimpanzee and applied to D466. D466 experiments rapid growth of hair across their entire body. There are otherwise no other significant physiological changes. Body hair disappears when the transformation period expires. Test 8. Sample taken from Atlantic salmon and applied to D466. There is no observable effect. Test 9. Under O5 authorization, a sample taken from SCP Beep is applied to D466. D466 exhibits extremely adverse reaction upon transformation, and data expunged, resulting in significant damage to testing environment, multiple injuries upon testing security staff, and the death of D466. Testing of normal stimuli with SCP-034 was suspended indefinitely. Close interrogation report 2211. As per stand, job fighting procedure, we first attempted to interrogate the prisoner via non-violent and non-invasive means. However, when such method was proved ineffective, we began to intrude conventional interrogation techniques. More partially successful, we deemed it necessary to use SCP Beep, SCP Beep, and SCP Beep. We actually learned the following fact: the prisoner has extensive knowledge on the existence of Foundation and its inner working. The prisoner had extensive knowledge of other SCP-related agencies and groups. The prisoner was not acting under any official capacity from any government agency. The prisoner obtained SCP-034 and instructions on his operation from an unknown benefactor. So the prisoner was given very specific instructions to infiltrate Site Beep and maintain his position until further notice. The prisoner had enough samples brought to Beep to stay within Site Beep for Beep days. Regretfully, the prisoner did not survive interrogation. Agent Beep. Let's go in with the first really famous SCP. Item number: SCP-035, Object Class Key to Spiral Containment Procedure. SCP-035 is to be captured in a hermetically sealed glass case, no fewer than 10 centimeters 4 inches. Like the case is to be contained with a steel, iron, and lead shielded room at all times. Doors will be triple locked at all times, with the exception of allowing personnel to arrive. No fewer than 2 armed guards to be posted at any time. Guards must remain outside at all times and not allowed in the containment room under any circumstances. The trained psychologist is to remain on site at all times. Research personnel not to touch SCP-035 at any time. SCP-035 must be moved to a new stable case every 2 weeks. The previous case must be disposed of via SCP-101 as it shows no adverse reactions to SCP-035's corruption. Anyone who contacts with SCP-035 when it is in possession of a host is to be given an immediate psychological evaluation. Description: SCP-035 appears to be a white porcelain comedy mask, although at times it will change to tragedy. In these events, all existing visual records such photographs of even illustrations of SCP-035 will automatically change to reflect this new appearance. Highly corrosive and unregenerative, viscous liquids constantly seeps from the eye and mouth holes of SCP-035. Anything coming into contact with this substance slowly decays over a period of time, depending on the material, until it has decayed completely into a pool of the original contaminant. Glass seems to react the slowest to the effects of the item, hence the construction choice of its immediate contain living organisms that come into contact with the substance react much the same way with no chance of recovery. The origin of the liquid is unknown. Liquid is only visible from the front and does not emerge or is even visible from the other side. Subject to the 1.5 to 2 meters 5 to 6 feet of SCP-035 on visual contact with it, experience strong edge to put it on. When SCP-035 is placed on the face of an individual, an alternate brainwave pattern from SCP-035 overlaps that with the original, effectively stuffing it out and causing brain death to the subject. Subject then claims to be the consciousness contained within SCP-035. The bodies of possessed subjects decay at a highly accelerated rate, eventually becoming little more than mummified corpses. Nevertheless, SCP-035 has demonstrated the ability to remain in cognitive control of the body, experiencing severe structural damage. Even the subject's body literally decays to the point where motion is not mechanically possible. No effect is found to be had when placed on the face of an animal. Conversations with SCP-035 have proven to be informative. Researchers have learned various details about other SCP objects and history in general. As SCP-035 claims to have been at many momentous events, SCP-035 displays a highly intelligent and charismatic personality, being both amiable and flattering to all those who speak with it. SCP-035 is scored in the 99th percentile on all intelligence and aptitude tests administered to it and appears to have a photographic memory. However, psychological analysis has discovered SCP-035 to possess a highly manipulative nature, capable of forcing sudden and profound changes to an interviewer's psychological state. SCP-035 is proven to be highly sadistic, prompting some to commit suicide and transforming us into near mindless servants with linguistic persuasion General alone, SCP-035 has stated that it has intimate knowledge of the workings of the human mind and implied that it could change anyone's views if given enough time. Additional, SCP-035 was found in a steel crypt in an abandoned house in Venice in 18 beep. Venom 035-01 SCP-035 has been found to be able to possess anything that has a humanoid shape, including mannequins, corpses, and statues. SCP-035 has been able to motivate all into movement, removing the need to expose live subjects to SCP-035. Still, anything it possesses inevitably decays into motionlessness. Addendum 035-02 SCP-035 has facilitated an escape attempt, convincing several of the research staff to aid it in its bid for freedom. Interaction failed. All staff that have been in contact with SCP-035 have been terminated, and mandatory psychiatric evaluations have been implemented for all personnel coming in contact with SCP-035. Addendum 035-03 has been determined that SCP-035 is capable of telepathy, whether or not it possesses the host, even penetrating to the subconscious levels, and using the knowledge it finds to its advantage. Extreme caution is advised when choosing subjects involved with SCP-035. Addendum 035-04 SCP-035 is expressed an interest in other SCPs, most notably SCP-4715 and SCP-682. Dr. B expressed worry that should SCP-035 bond with either their regenerative qualities would negate its corruption and give it a permanent host. Addendum 035-05 after several more escape attempts and after reviewing SCP-035's incident record, High Command's orders that it be permanently sealed within the facility and prohibited from being allowed any more hosts. Several personnel protested against this, with some even erupting into violence. As a direct result, all personnel that have come into contact with SCP-035 that have been terminated. Going forward, all personnel that deal with SCP-035 to be rotated frequently and contact is to be limited even to its dormant state to as little as possible. Addendum 035-06 personnel within 10 meters of SCP-035 have recently reported feeling uneasy, stating that they can hear unintelligible whispering. Several others have suffered from severe migraines. Objects have been monitored, but there was no change in its dormant behavior and no sounds have been recorded. The motion to reinstate SCP-035's host privileges have been brought up once more, if only on a temporary basis, to discover these new changes in objects' behavior. Denied. Addendum 035-07 the rules of SCP-035's containment cell suddenly began secreting a black substance. Tests on the substance revealed it to be human blood, although highly contaminated with several foreign and unknown agent substances, corrosive, having a pH of 4.5, and prolonged exposure to the walls has proven to be detrimental to their structural integrity. More notably, it seems to be forming patterns on the walls. Several segments seem to be paragraphs in various languages, including Italian, Latin, Greek, and Sanskrit. Translation is pending. Other segments appear to be diagrams depicting ritualistic sacrifice and mutilation, often for the arcane benefit of the person committing them. Several staff members have been shocked to note that all the sacrifices bear an uncanny resemblance to various personnel and their loved ones, often in conflicting positions. Researchers while in the room examining these newly formed patterns have complained of hearing loud whispering and high-pitched unnerving laughter at regular intervals. Personnel work in the section working daily near and around the SCP-035 containment unit has suffered catastrophic morale damage with an all-time high in suicide rates in staff in the area, whether or not they have ever had contact with SCP-035. The only change in SCP-035's dormant behavior is regarding its contained loss case. The degradation of the case has increased to a high degree, so enough that the case will occasionally shatter, causing a wide dispersal of SCP-035 contaminants. This occurs quite often at the most inopportune time so far, resulting in 6 casualties and 3 fatalities of both research and cleanup. Staff Addendum 035-08 in light of the mass suicide/homicide of members of the research team tasked with translating the passages garnered from SCP-035 containment, cell the morale damage in the area and general loss of staff dealing with SCP-035 to either death or insanity has been decided to coat the inner and outer walls of its containment cell with SCP-148, which has proved well in the containment of SCP-142. See document 132-01 in order to hopefully block out the high levels of negativity being emitted by SCP-035. Addendum 035-09 the use of SCP-148 has worked well, causing morale and suicide rates to return to near pre-SCP-035 rate. However, the material appears to facilitate the negativity within the cell, causing a veritable greenhouse effect inside personnel inside the cell have stated that they feel a heavy sense of dread, fear, anger, and general depression, as well as hearing constantly inaudible whispering upon immediate and prolonged stay causes severe migraine, suicidal tendencies, heavy hemorrhaging of blood vessels around the eyes and inside the mouth, and the general hostility to others, and for the whispering to increase almost deafening, while Even intersected by a constant mocking laugh, or exploded for more than 3 hours, inevitably results in the subject falling into a deep psychosis and having to harm either themselves or others. Most spoken Latin great, despite the fact that several did not previously know how to speak said languages beforehand. The presence of blood in both word and diagram formations has increased disproportionately. The walls becoming clustered and the formations beginning to overlap each other. The substance has proven to be both difficult to clean and even more corrosive than was originally recorded, with a pH of roughly 2.4. General estimation gives the current walls a life of 2 months before they will need replacement. It is becoming gradually more and more difficult to contain SCP-035, and the debate to reinstate its host privileges has once again come up. Denied! Addendum 035 Henderson. The wall, ceiling, and floor of SCP-035 containment cell have now been completely saturated in blood. All personnel entering and leaving the containment area must wear full hazmat protection suits. Constant cleaning efforts are being instated. Addendum 035-11. The magnitude, intensity, and recurrence of the phenomena that occur within SCP-035 containment cell have increased to an alarming degree. The cell door has been known to become locked at its own accord while personnel are inside and unable to be opened for a period of time. Appendages form out of the larger puddles of blood and often attempt to grab or harm personnel. And blurry apparitions have started appearing on staff. Electronic devices no longer work inside the cell, and the light cannot be turned on, though there is no physical reason why it doesn't. But why it does not work, forcing those entering to use non-electric based light sources. Cleaning measures are having no discernible effect on the cell, and the walls are degrading at a very high rate, forcing them to be replaced within a week at best. Although the blood makes it nearly impossible to properly achieve this, SCP-035 may have to be moved to a new cell entirely, with the old one sealed off and disengaged from the rest of the facility. I'm going to go and get my dad, because every hour he has to pop in, or otherwise I'm breaking the YouTube community guidelines by live streaming them.
Does it ask you for verification, or do you just do it?
No, I just sort of do it. Mum said that basically every hour it's smart to have adult appear. This is an adult. I mean, this person here is technically an adult.
Yeah. Hello, adult supervision here. Oh, there we are. So am I suitably adulted?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you all right, young man?
I'm just shocked. That is that level of.
Ah, you see it.
I
know. Are you being lost for words for a minute, Stephen?
I just looked at the just given.
Yeah.
We actually got a few more donors. So let me just thank all the donors.
Yes, you do that. Oh, well done, you. Are you lost for words? Oh my god.
to change the... I like how I'm just live streaming this, and part of the live stream is just letting me 300 7 mil. Nice. Let's right, yeah. What's that? What's that?
Yes.
Please continue to like try and spend whatever thing.
Yes, I've just done another one that said that I've made.
I've just had to change the goal, but the target is 300 pounds.
Oh my god.
300. Yeah.
Like I say, you changed it up to 200 already. Yeah.
Now it's 300 because for some reason people just seem to be just throwing money at me. Right, let's go. Right, let's continue. Item number SCP-036. Object class safe. Special containment procedures. 1. Every year, a mobile task force is dispatched from Containment Command 02 and expunged to Site 22A to defend the runway and airport located there. The civilian facility is to be cleared of all non-SCP personnel by 400 hours on that of September 23rd, and none are allowed to return until sunrise the next day on October 1st. All civilians must be evacuated again before sunrise and will not be allowed to Site 22A until the return of the I should actually probably get a drink. I'm gonna go and get a drink. I know I'm spending quite a lot of time not reading, but I feel thirsty, and I thought.
A glass on the side. I started to put some juice in. I simply remembered. And just leave the water in it.
Pilgrims in transit from the arrival flight awaiting departure on the Pilgrim flight may only be cross-examined by researchers with level 3 security clearance or higher. Description: SCP-036 includes the location, Site 22A, a small airport in the Mosul region of northern Iraq, and Site 22B, the destination of passengers boarding at Site 22A. The key components of SCP-036 are the arrival flight, a passenger plane that varies in make and model from year to year, that arrived shortly before dawn on September 23rd. It appears on radar about 30 to 40 kilometers away from Site 22A, and when it lands, pilgrims exit the plane and into the terminal. No crew have left the plane. Observations have only revealed a master pilot and co-pilot. This plane leaves quickly after pilgrims exit and does not wait for clearance to take off, nor does it identify itself upon approach for landing. The pilgrims, people of the Yazidi faith, the exit the arrival. Who are said to be undergoing the Kiraz Guhadin. Each year they are examined and identified as various people of the Yazidi faith who have died during the previous year. This is done through birth certificates, photo IDs, specific knowledge questions and then possible fingerprint. They most have been known to be friendly and amicable, although most are reluctant to give details about the killer's gohivin. In the past, all have been shown to be unable to recognize family and friends or been able to remember any information beyond what short-term memory would normally allow. In the late afternoon of September 23rd, most pilgrims begin to emphasize how important it is that their pilgrimage must begin. At that time, they file onto the pilgrimage flight and plane and depart, never to be seen again. The pilgrimage flight, a passenger plane provided by SCP personnel for the transport of the pilgrims, it is manned by a crew of trained Yazidi holy men. The crew are typically never able to elaborate upon details of the pilgrimage or what the Kurdish Gohivin actually is. SCP equipment on board function optimally, but recorded data will only slightly increase our understanding of the pilgrimage each year. Though the flight is gone for 7 days, the crew and recorded data are only able to account for a few hours. Days are missing from time recording equipment and cameras, though nothing abnormal is ever observed. The plane disappears from radar and visual contact is lost about 50 to 60 kilometers away from Site 22A until it returns about sunrise on October 1st. Site 22B, the destination of the pilgrimage plane. It is a small airport consisting of a runway and a single building located at coordinates expunged. It has only been observed by pilgrimage crew and cameras on the plane. It does not appear on satellite images, and time slot to rejoin photos failed once with disastrous results. Cameras have trouble focusing on the area if the heat from the ground usually causes a mirage-like visual effect on all objects more than a few dozen meters from the plane. A flyover with SCP reconnaissance plane several weeks before the pilgrims revealed undeveloped land and what looked like an ancient stone statue. In the 1990s, SCP Mobile Task Force Sigma 4 attempted to retest Site 22B during the time of the pilgrimage. Upon the approach, communication was lost and the task force was never heard from again. No other exploration attempts were advised during the 7-day pilgrimage. Originally, the Kurdish-speaking Yazidi people around the Mosul secretly performed the pilgrimage themselves. Pilgrims from the east were escorted by masked armed guards on camel back into the care of the holy man. It has been explained that the holy man would then take pilgrims west to their land of the dead, where the pilgrims would wait to be reborn back into the Yazidi people. The Gihad Gohavi, literally Kurdish for changing garments, is used to describe the belief of reincarnation that lasts the souls of the Yazidi undergo. While this pilgrimage was done in secret, a symbolic pilgrimage in Kiryat Gohavin was performed every year at this time by other Yazidi. During the 1960s, land acquisition by Kurds and Muslims, attacks by Turks and punitive laws by the Islamic Iraqi government restricted the movements and customs of the Yazidi. During that time, the Foundation steps in and offered aid in the way of an advantageous clause that granted SCP planes unrestricted access to airport facilities in the area. Almost immediately, mysterious planes carrying pilgrims from the east began landing at the local airport, and an elusive airport of the destination appeared as well. Item number SCP-037 object class equals battle containment procedures. SCP-037 is magnetically contained in a subterranean complex known as Site 22. Object size, spectral signature, and temperature are constantly monitored both on-site and remotely from Site 998. The primary containment chamber is lined with heat-conducting radiation-resistant nanopeaks, GFV polymerized and evacuate of any atmosphere. Heat from the object is radiated into surrounding option. Enclosure integrity become compromised. The emergency system will generate a low-power argon plasma shield. This is projected to provide a minimum of 4 hours for on-site engineers to effect necessary repairs before the object reaches containment. In the contingency, the stellar revolution proceeds ahead of projections and another event appears imminent or containment failure is otherwise unavoidable. Any remaining project staff are authorized to initiate the PINTAC protocol. Description: SCP-037 appears to be a star approximately 5 centimeters, 2 inches in diameter, with a luminosity about 1 times 10 to the negative 12 times that of our sun's surface. Temperature about 5,000 kelvins, determined by UBVRI analysis. The origin of SCP-037 is unknown. However, analysis suggests that it shares many properties in common with the typical main sequence star, other than its enormously small size. It is theorized to have entered the Earth's magnetosphere via the North Magnetic Pole. The object was discovered in 19 above the Beaufort Sea, approximately the North Magnetic Pole. Intense electromagnetic interference was reported by Canadian Forces Station CFS Alert, followed by an extremely bright object descending towards the ocean from the sky. The SCPS Guardian responded and discovered the object wavering in an erratic trajectory about 200 meters above the surface of the wall. To once containment procedures would advise it was transported to Site 32 for study. Containment and transport of SCP-037 has been achieved by the use of powerful electromagnets, to which the artifact aligns itself using according to its own magnetic field. The primary challenge to containment thus far has been its powerful electromagnetic emissions, which are intense enough to be easily seen by the naked eye from high Ethel. But its current enclosure is located deep underground to prevent detection and to facilitate radiative cooling into the surrounding bedrock. And in fact, the entire facility and the surrounding volume of the Earth crust is actually a massive heat sink. Then, over the past years of study, the star has undergone a shift and emitted EM radiation, suggesting that it is undergoing stellar evolution at a vastly accelerated rate. Standard stellar models hold that this will soon increase in radius by a factor of 100 to 300 times in a non-commutant increase in radiated energy, and emergency containment contingency being studied for that eventuality. Further progression of the star's lifespan will likely terminate in stellar nova, which is estimated to have a yield of extrapolation predicts this to occur in research is underway for a method to arrest this development or to transport SCP-037 to safe distance from the planet before it occurs. PDAC Protocol. 10th August 5th, 1977, 205 count. So from Dr. Renner, subjects SCP-037 emergency neutralization research body, certain madams. The agents of madams in the US DoD have managed to alter the project requirements for the NASA orbiter program. The vehicle may now be designed with enough space to accommodate SCP-037 with a temporary containment apparatus in order to facilitate transport off planet. However, I continue to have reservations. One rocket technology is simply not reliable enough for the needs of this project. A single mistake could lead to launch failure and subsequent loss of containment, possibly catastrophically. Even a successful launch would have to proceed perfectly, lest the result be visible to observatories and instruments, and possibly the naked eye around the world. I don't even know contained by the Foundation for Smile as a sample SCP-037 safely and cost effectively into an injection dimension universal SCP being pretty normal micro social convenient for this problem, considering the outcomes of recent attempts to explore and the difficulty of neutralization of SCP-037 might thus serve for the added purpose of reducing or removing the threat posed by that anomaly as well. I implore you to reconsider the PDAC protocol submitted in light of these concerns and message. So many stupidly long articles. Item number SCP-03 object class states wrong containment procedures. SCP-03A is to be watered twice per day via overhead mister. Should the mister break for any reason, attendants should water SCP-038 by hand until it has been fixed. Lighting is provided by computer-controlled lighting array. Attendants watering SCP-038 by hand. Maintenance personnel fixing mister or lighting should wear hazmat suits to prevent accidental cloning. Description: SCP-038 was found on an abandoned farm in New York in 19 It was the first thought to be a common apple tree. However, upon closer inspection, it became apparent that SCP-038 was growing things other than apples, and in fact other than fruit. SCP-038 has the ability to clone any object that touches its bark. Objects were grown almost instantaneously and reach maturity within a matter of minutes. A weight limit of 90.9 kilograms, 2,000 pounds per object has been previously recorded. Objects that SCP-038 has thus far cloned included apples, oranges, watermelons, eggplants, candy bars, snack food, see addendum 1, televisions, toasters, laptop keys, see addendum 2, chairs, wine, DVDs, CDs, see addendum 3, cats, dogs, and people. Human animal cloning through SCP-038 is not recommended as they appear to age quickly. The majority of these clones live on average 2 weeks. After thorough examination of the deceased clones, it has been determined they began to ferment before death. Some objects are currently held on Site 23, and there are currently no plans to move. Addendum 1. Dr. Klein has requested that personnel discontinue the cloning of items from the vending machine. See document 338-1. Addendum 2. Dr. Klein has requested that personnel discontinue the cloning of personal items. See document 338-1. Addendum 3. Dr. Klein has requested that personnel discontinue the cloning of movies and music. See document 338-1. Addendum 4. Dr. Klein has requested the personnel discontinue the cloning of cans of Miller, Budweiser, and Foster. Dr. Klein has furthermore expressed customary disapproval of the quality of such cloned items. See document 338-1B. Document 338-1. I would like to remind all personnel that SCP-038 is not, I repeat, not a toy. It should not be used for cloning keys, movies, music, or items from the vending machines. If this behavior continues, I will force to limit access to SCP-038. Dr. Klein, document 338-2. It has been noted that SCP-038 is able to clone SCP-500. However, such pills only work 30% of the time, with chance of successful healing dropping as time since clone and increases. In 60% of the cases where the infection is permanent, symptoms of infection remain, though further infection is neutralized. SCP-038 partial test log select experiments only for all test records and reports the contact affiliated researchers for authorization. Sure. Date 1108. Intent confirmation of lack of mass limits. Investigation of consequences into exceeding number. Summary of test result. £400 ceiling that made contact with the outer block of SCP-038. Chamber vacate to do as a precaution, cloning that didn't grow at typical speed, but growth halted abruptly short of completion. Examination at the end of the aborted facsimile revealed a rough texture superficially resembling miniature scale tree bark. Item detached from SCP-038 as typical and was subsequently found to weigh 90.91 kilograms almost. kilograms are almost precisely 200 pounds. Day 1108. Beep. Intent investigation into duplication of non-biological element matter. Summary of test result. SCP-173 deemed a suitable test subject because of its lack of veritable life processes. Introduced in the containment chamber by Class C personnel. Contact made with the owl bark of SCP-038 and SCP-173 returned immediately to containment. SCP-173 facsimile began development at typical speed, beginning at point of contact. As consistent with previous tests, growth halted at the 200-pound threshold. In this case, terminating development after replication of the head, right arm, and partial upper torso. Class D test subject was ordered to break eye contact with clone. When test subject eventually blinked, no movement was observed in clone material. Extinguishing and re-establishment of containment chamber light supply of it revealed no apparent reaction from clone material. Experiment concluded. During storage of clone portion of SCP-173, it was observed that the particle facsimile was in fact making violent gestures at a dramatically slower rate. The movement was shown to continue regardless of state of observation. Item number SCP-039 object class equals spelling containment procedures. All instances of SCP-039 contained in Site 77's Wilderness Observation Chamber 2B. At least 2 security personnel to monitor the interior and exterior of SCP-039's chamber and are to rotate every 6 hours. Staff members may not access SCP-039's chamber without an accompanying escort from site security. May only do so for research purposes of the examination of the chamber for containment, sabotage, or contraband, which is to occur weekly. As of 9/18/20, beep! SCP-039-8 has become pregnant. Responsibility for its containment has been reassigned to personnel on the veteran area observation. Among SCP description, SCP-039 consists of 23 instances of Nasalis larvae, proboscis monkey, who have been subject to radical anatomical changes. The eyes and mouths of SCP-039 are absent, leaving the face bare save for the nose and its accompanying nasal passages. Instances of SCP-039 possess acute auditory and tactile sense compensate for a lack of eyes, relying mostly on contact as a sort of echolocation to help them navigate in their environment. Necropsies also revealed the digestive system to be absent. How instances of SCP-039 obtain nutrition or alternately how they survive without it is still subject to research. Instances of SCP-039 display signs of safety. Examples of which have include communication via nasal source and understanding of spoken English and a complex understanding of machinery. Adult instances have demonstrated the ability to operate mechanical tools and possess the ability to repair and manufacture various pieces of technology such as disassembling and reassembling an internal combustion engine and efficiently wiring a small apartment room. Testing has shown that SCP-039 appear to work more efficiently individually rather than in groups, as instances of SCP-039 will often become distracted by each other. Occasionally, when working, instances of SCP-039 will clutch their abdomen and emit distressed vocalizations. If food is located nearby, they will attempt to smear their faces with the substance. It is currently hypothesized that this indicates that SCP-039 is the result of artificial manipulation of normal Nasalis larvae specimens, with documents recovered during containment supporting this hypothesis. See addendum to SCP-039-A. SCP-039 are capable of reproduction under station, not unlike Nasalis larvae. To serve the time of writing, 5 instances of SCP-039 have been born. SCP-039 show a very close bond among their species, with newborns often being cared for by all capable adults. New instances are born with anatomical anomalies similar to other instances of SCP-039, but lack the knowledge of other instances. Parent instances will educate newborns on communication and basic skills until they reach the age of 6 months, at which point technological ability will be taught by other adult instances. SCP-039 and was recovered from an uninhabited research facility 50 kilometers from the nearby town of Beep, Nevada. The documents recovered during containment placed on the shelf of the facility on the Beep company funding research for the advancement of natural human ability. 20 instances of SCP-039 had been apparently living in and maintaining the facility for an unknown period of time. Additional recovered documents indicated that a project was being conducted to augment human intelligence. This project appears to have been cancelled shortly before the company's collapse, with the assets sold to an unnamed group. Further research into Beep and the groups that acquired its assets has revealed several other anomalous objects, including SCP-1513, addendum SCP-039-8. One additional instance of SCP-039 was discovered during containment operations of SCP-1328. Agents currently following up on a report indicating the existence of further instances outside of containment. Addendum SCP-039-B. Several documents recovered during initial containment appear to notate the early prototyping stage of SCP-039's development. Researchers began to develop a way to recreate the process that creates new SCP-039. However, the damage to the notes that had accumulated prior to containment has rendered many of them unreadable. They've become almost 100% more productive, not even counting the extra time due to reduced breaks and time off. With this success, we're considering the removal of additional orifices as long as the replacements or lack thereof do not reduce our output. Well, when I was looking at them as they work today, I noticed some of them clutching their abdomen, seeing that they experience phantom hunger pains even if they no longer require food. Unless it starts interfering with productivity, we're going to continue as is. We tried removing the ocular organs and having them just work by memory. After a couple of inconclusive trials, we actually got one to the point where it scored almost as high as the control test. We decided to move forward with this initiative, and if successful, apply it to all specimens. Edit an update on this one. It seems the removal of sight has increased the tactile sensitivity of most of the specimens. Remarkably, this has brought the initial test subjects up to a level of productivity that exceeds the expected result. As such, we will be applying the changes to all available specimens. Some of them take food, but they're still good for spare parts. In the meantime, we put them in storage. After the success of the eyeball thing, Damien suggested that we can increase productivity by increasing auditory sensitivity. As long as they stayed in the factory, they'd be fine, and there isn't much here to overwhelm the ears. Testing starts in a week or so. A massive success with the elimination of sight and need for food, and with this amplification of hearing and touch, we've managed a total boost of 211% over our initial test subjects. Management has seen fit to give our division extra time to finish the product, and to think that we would solve this product for a lark. Man, I feel like dancing on air. Edit small incident day. One of the specimens was out of his pen and had grabbed a couple of tools. We put them back in and sealed it up again. Alan says he'll take another look at the doors tomorrow. We're on the 40s. We're getting high SCP numbers. Very high SCP numbers. Item number SCP-040 Object Class Euclid. Federal Containment Procedures. SCP-040 is to be contained in the standard humanoid containment module within Bio-Research Area 12. The chamber is to be connected to an airborne tranquilizer dispersal system to be activated in the event of SCP-040 manifesting its properties outside of testing environments. The chamber is to be observed by 2 supervisory personnel at all times. Recreational items such as toys, games, and art supplies may be provided to SCP-040 at the discretion of supervisory personnel, as they have been determined to pose no possible threat. SCP-040-1A, SCP-040-1C, and SCP-040-1J have been approved to remain in the containment chamber with SCP-040 for purposes of the subject flow being Security Chief Special Order 392-5. Beep! All of entities modified by SCP-040 would be disposed of after recovery and study according to standard biological specimen clearance protocols as outlined in document CDP Bio EN1. No outside organisms will be brought into SCP-049 presence beyond those using testing procedures. SCP-040 is to undergo daily school lessons and bi-weekly psychological review overseen by Doctors Abernathy, Logan, and Izawa. Description: SCP-040 is a Caucasian female of approximately 8 years of age, standing 1 meter in height. SCP-040 bears numerous physical abnormalities. The subject is entirely sensitive to light and easily damaged by physical contact, and the subject's hair is bright pink in coloration. This hair is brittle and falls out easily. The subject displays green facial heterochromia with the scleral of the left eye black in coloration. SCP-040 has no sight in this eye. SCP-040's proportional state is an acceptable boundary for an individual at its age group, accounting for the effects of prolonged containment and physical abnormalities. Subject's intelligence is slightly above average for its age group, and display behavior is generally cooperative. We've noticed SCP-040 is quick acclimatization for containment, believed to be resulting in upbringing before recovering. SCP-040 are capable of manipulating living matter, mutating and modifying existing organisms in order to create new ones, collectively referred to as SCP-040-1. This device is at will, but requires significant focus and time to enact, and becomes increasingly unreliable and inaccurate when manipulating details of small scale modifications. SCP-040 is incapable of altering microscopic organisms, has great difficulty in altering plant life. Organic matter may also be used, but must be used in conjunction with living organisms. Instances of SCP-040-1 will not demonstrate pre-modification behavior, and the majority will act similar to domesticated house pet, generally with extreme loyalty to SCP-040, regardless of prior association. The appearance of SCP-040-1 instances will vary. Some instances will retain overall pre-modification forms, so as alterations such as SCP-040 apparent modification to itself, but the majority will bear no resemblance to their original appearance. The SCP-040 appears incapable of manipulating instances of SCP-040-1 more than once. Recovery log SCP as the object was recovered on beep beep 20 beep in redact to SCP-040 was one of 15 subjects taken into custody. Further investigation have no anomalous properties in any other individuals. Amnesty for administers to detainees and the general populace, and the cover-up matters were enacted without further ends. Monitoring of the area as ongoing officers acting sudden beep. I didn't know why SCP-040 was currently allowed custody of following SCP-040-1 instance. SCP-040-1A, a polymorphic symbiotic organism capable of changing size, shape, color, and texture and reacting to its environment. Subject has outer clothing similar to a jackal's sweater and absorbed nutrients from SCP-040's blood. Stream subject was recovered alongside SCP-040, and genetic testing revealed that the subject shares the majority of the genetic makeup with the common house cat, Felis cat. So the SCP-040-1C, a spherical organism capable of flight by means of rubbery bladders filled with helium. The entity has 11 limbs terminating in opposable digits and a complex respiratory system capable of replicating a wide variety of musical patterns. SCP-040-1J, a quadrupedal organism covered in a thick coat of pink and blue fur, and he has no eyes, broad mouth with blunt teeth, and is capable of climbing up vertical surfaces, occasionally used by SCP-040 as a mode of transportation. And Addendum 02, the following excerpt is from an interview carried out on beep beep 20 beep 3 with her initial containment. Dr. Abernathy, good morning, 40. SCP-040. Good morning, Mrs. Abernathy. Dr. Abernathy, it's good to see that you were getting over your call. SCP-040. Dr. Abernathy, do you mind? Can I ask you a few questions for you? So I would say so. SCP-040. Yeah. Dr. Abernathy, can you tell me about your parents? SCP-040. Mr. Green says that I don't have any. Dr. Abernathy, can you tell me about Mr. Green? SCP-040. He was always nice, but he wasn't very good at all. He would always talk like this, but he wasn't there at all. Sorry, most of the time it was the nurses looking after us. Dr. Abernathy, and what did they do for you? SCP-040. They play games with us and teach us things. Sometimes they will make us wear these dumb helmets and sit quiet for a long time. Sometimes they put on a movie for us if we behave, but if we were bad, they would lock us in our rooms. Dr. Abernathy, could you tell me anything else? SCP-040. They also have a peas to vanilla, and I hate peas, so I always gave mine to 5 because she liked beans, but I think green peas are better. Addendum 03. Beep beep 20 beep. SCP-040 successfully reanimated a sea demon body during testing using 3 specimens of brown ratus novatus as a required living component. Resultant subject retained no memories of previous life and was judged to be one of the approximate mental capacity of a human toddler. SCP-040 was highly distressed by the event and refused further testing for the next 3 weeks. Item number SCP-031 object class A developing procedures. SCP-041 is to be hospitalized by a research area as well. They're not key to caution. SCP-041's ability to propagate beyond a reasonably containable area. The risk of SCP-sensitive information being broadcast to the public will remain too great a risk and warrants area-level isolation away from the general population. SCP personnel wanting to keep their thoughts private are advised to remain outside of a 15-meter radius from SCP-041 beyond the designated red circle on the floor. It is beneficial to the mental health of SCP-041 to have a sitter in the room who watches television and concentrates on its programming. This allows SCP-041 to effectively watch television during the mind of some. Whilst the optimal setter is a class D personnel with below average intelligence whose mind does not wander or have more than one train of thought at a time. Though not mind control, SCP-041 has used its abilities to allow setters into watching programming that they don't themselves enjoy. SCP-041's taste vary between gore/slasher films, having even expressed interest in snuff and children's programming. Description: SCP-041 is a male human suffering from irreversible damage to a central nervous system, which is believed to have been caused by infection of a rare strain of bacterial meningitis. Although antibiotics was successful in clearing the infection, the membrane surrounding his brain and spinal cord had reacted to the infection by severing many neurons connecting the central nervous system to the rest of the body. SCP-041 must rely on a respirator to sustain his breathing, and a biventricular pacemaker to keep his heart beating, and on a nasal gastric tube to provide nutrition. Visually, SCP-041 appears to be in a persistent vegetative state. However, observers in the presence of SCP-041 begin to realize that their thoughts, along with everyone else's, in about a 10-meter radius from SCP-041 are broadcast in a semi-audible fashion. Aside from being the source, SCP-041 is also capable of broadcasting his own thoughts to those present. Anyone forming an idea using words will have those thoughts unwillingly transmitted to others in this range of semi-audible speech, which cannot be recorded by any known equipment. Correction. See addendum 01. Mind-audible speech may be heard using whatever voice subjects you just think with. Most typically, this is the subject's normal voice. See document 01. Visual thoughts and images are broadcast as well, but are not received as readily. Images are most effectively transmitted when both sender and receiver have their eyes closed. The sender concentrates on a single object without environmental background, and the receiver's mind is clear of conscious thought. The communication between subjects and using visual images, particularly those not rooted in memory but in imagination, is usually difficult. The sender typically has trouble conceiving a highly detailed mental object from a single point of view, while the receiver will often try to fill in gaps of missing information, ultimately resulting in the receiver seeing a different image from what was sent. The most difficult imagery to be successfully broadcast appears to be a person's face, particularly if the image is one of a person in motion. Although able to transmit his thoughts to others, SCP-041 is not very tall because it attempts to persuade SCP-041 to divulge information about his ability has been so far fruitless. SCP-041 is typically silent and normally will not respond to any direct attempts at communication. However, SCP-041 appears to have a sense of humour as he interjects occasional comments in the conversations of others. Addendum 01. While researcher Beep was taking notes using a digital audio recorder, a fellow researcher was changing the television in SCP-041's room. While the television was on a channel with static, disembodied voices could be heard filtered through the white noise. Attempts to record mind-audible speech with white noise generally doesn't sound recording equipment have begun to yield modest results, though most audio is garbled and recorded sounds may or may not be voices and widely left towards individual interpretations. Addendum 02 it has come to my attention that several personnel have used SCP-041 as an ad hoc she likes me not detector. This is one of the most boring things I've ever heard. Are we safeguarding potentially world-destroying objects or are we in third grade? Dr. Klein. A document 01 later. Just quote, the first time I was in that room with Ken and 41, I kept hearing this singing. It was this little girl's voice singing some kid song, and it wasn't TV, and it definitely wasn't a radio. It was in our heads, so I think, if I was stuck in bed without anything else to do, I'd sing like a little girl. Till then, voice comes to my head, hey, it's not me, I don't know that tune. And then Kent looks at me, going all white in the face, No, this event occurs after SCP-239 was placed in a chemically induced coma. Any connection between the two SCPs is currently unconfirmed. Item number SCP-042 Object Class A Surviving Handling Procedures. SCP-042 is currently housed within minimum security padlock and Bio Research Area 32. Despite SCP-042's seemingly disinclination to attempt to escape at this point, security measures must still be maintained at all times. Previous attempts to maintain the health of the ground cover in Paddock 12 have failed to date. Despite regular watering, SCP-042's presence leaves the ground parched wherever it treads. As it has not been determined what happens to added water, the program of watering has been discontinued as unnecessary and potentially hazardous to the local water table. Monitoring of local well levels, sampling of the area's water is to be carried out on a weekly basis. Personnel interacting with SCP-042, including any handlers, medical personnel, feeders, and custodial staff, must submit to a thorough search, including data redacted prior to entrance into Paddock 12. Any personnel attempting to smuggle a weapon or an object which can be used as a weapon is to be immediately data redacted. Personnel are to undergo psychological training once per week after interacting in any way with SCP-042. Medical personnel examining the wounds on SCP-042's back to be closely monitored at all times, lest they attempt to euthanize SCP-042. Description: SCP-042 is an animal believed to be a member of the genus Equus. Its color is white in color with some small brown spotting. It stands at 183 centimeters, 18 hands, which withers and weighs 710 kilograms. Its weight has dropped significantly since it has been in Foundation custody due to atrophy from lack of physical activity and refusal to eat. The liquid nutrient diet forcibly administered to it keeps it alive, but it remains emaciated and weak. SCP-042 exhibits 2 large bones from its back linked to powerful musculature and now atrophied throughout his back. These bones end at 37 centimeters from the surface of his back, and they've proven skin open, ragged wounds. Today, no healing has been observed of these wounds, though some clotting must be taking place for SCP-042 to not have bled out. The SCP-042 exhibits a listless demeanor and has been unresponsive to any attempt by skilled handlers to incite activity. If allowed to do so, SCP-042 will lay on the ground immobile, not moving to eat, drink, or relieve it. So pain response conditioning has proven somewhat effective in getting SCP-042 to rise so they can be cleaned, but eventually it will attempt to lay down again no matter the strength of the shock and menacing to the point of losing consciousness. Researchers advised to SCP-042's level intelligence. Whilst unbelievable to be simply an animal, no smarter than others of its gene, the soldiers come to believe that it may in fact be sapient. It has been shown to make eye contact with persons entering Paddock 12, most of whom describe its looks as plaguing. SCP-042 has been involved in accidents on multiple occasions where it has been injured on pieces of equipment or its enclosure, which those arguing for intelligence believe to have been intentionally caused by SCP-042. Addendum. A request was submitted by Dr. Beep to transfer SCP-042 to Bio Research Area 4 on Beep Beep 19 Beep, which was approved by OFLAG-5. Dr. Beep ample transportation documents to indicate that SCP-042 was to be airlifted rather than transported by armed convoy. During transit, Dr. Beep overpowered the pilot of the transport aircraft and took the control, plunging the craft into a steep dive. Passengers and cargo experienced nearly a minute of weightlessness before security personnel regained control of the aircraft and leveled off. As Dr. Beep was being bound, the plane landed. SCP-042 broke free of containment and kicked 2 security personnel to death in the cargo area. Cargo-based security footage after this point, SCP-042 approached Dr. Beep and touched his muzzle to his face. Dr. Beep exhibited signs of euphoria while contact was maintained, but one additional security personnel subdued SCP-042 with tranquilizers. After contact was broken, he collapsed into a catatonic state from which he did not recover. After hearing concerning his actions, Dr. Beep was euthanized while in the Foundation medical care on Beep Beep 19 Beep. Item number SCP-043 Object Class Safe. Special containment procedures. SCP-043 requires no special containment, although it is recommended that SCP-043 not be used for purposes other than testing. A turntable is to be maintained in the same room for testing. Description: SCP-043 appears to be a vinyl copy of the White Album by the Beatles. However, upon closer inspection, the record has no grooves. In spite of this, the record will play from start to finish, regardless of the starting position of the needle. When the 29th track is reached, instead of playing Revolution 9, the disc stops swinging and faint breathing can be heard. Occasionally, the entity responsible for the breathing will speak in a male voice. The entity will respond to questions and shows a profound encyclopedic knowledge of the music industry, musical theory, and obscure trivia about many bands and artists. However, the entity refuses to answer questions regarding the Beatles or its own personal details. Inside the jacket, a small handwritten note was found reading limited edition 1-1. Thanks, John XXX. Number SCP-044 Object Class Safe. Special containment procedures. A constant stream of hydrogen ions and oxygen atoms and other trace-free radicals emanate from the muzzle of SCP-044 at all times. Because of this, all of the docking stations of SCP-044 had to be well ventilated to keep dangerous gases and moisture from accumulating. Model coverings are to be fitted at all times to keep birds and small animals from investigating the large open barrel of SCP-044. Beep Beep 2000 Beep. As SCP-004 is not involved in any significant incidents in the Beep because it has been held by the Foundation, SCP-044 has been reclassified as safe. Must I rarely find significant incidents of containment procedures and standard safety protocols are followed. S44 appears to be no more dangerous than any big beep gun. The bear incident does not count. 05 Beep. Disruption. SCP-044 is a howitzer secretly manufactured in the late stages of the Second World War by crop engineers and personally supervised by Albert Speer, Minister of Armaments and War Production under Adolf Hitler. SCP-044 is unique not only because of its size, 251,000 kilograms or 251 metric ton, but also because it fires unconventional artillery, like using an atypical delivery method. Rather than having a breech for loading cells. The rear of the barrel is configured into a massive air compression chamber. Any object or pile of objects that fits may be loaded into SCP-044's model to be used as ammunition. Because of its size, SCP-044 must remain rail-mounted and requires 2 freight locomotives to move. Researchers believe that SCP-044 weakens molecular and atomic bonds in any material loaded into its model. However, the method by SCP-044 affects molecular bonds is not known due primarily to the numerous complex organisms that compose the housing and workings of SCP-044. In fact, some mechanisms appear useless and seem to do nothing other than spin or make noise when SCP-044 is not supplied with power. Both equipment and personnel have been lost while exploring the inside of SCP-044's barrel. When SCP-044 is fired, all matter within its barrel is ejected at a high rate of speed as a glowing red slug, proportional in size to the amount of mass loaded into the muzzle. Upon striking the solid object of the ground, the slug slowly yields proportional to the mass of the original ammunition, no less than a beep mass to energy conversion. Right, the yield will also increase the longer the slug remains in the barrel. The longest known yield was achieved when the administrator at 8,900 kilograms, 19,500 pound personal diesel pickup truck was loaded in its entirety into the muzzle of SCP-044 and fired in the pictured experiment. Item number SCP-045 Object Class Stage Special Containment Procedures. SCP-045 must be kept affixed to an examination platform in a hemispherical chamber measuring 5 meters in radius at oceanographic station 12 location. The beep beep on the seafloor of the Pacific Ocean. The chamber is to be filled with gaseous neon at equilibrium pressure with the surrounding environment. The chamber is to be separated from habitable portions of the station by 5 meters of local seawater. Internal interactions with SCP-045 to be performed via telepresence or robotic means. The bindings that attach SCP-045 to its platform must be fitted with quick release hatches, which are to be released when necessary to prevent a containment breach. Given the seismic activity associated with SCP-045, the containment chamber is damaged or breached by seismological activity. SCP-045 should be recovered by remotely controlled drone vehicles and kept at least 10 meters from human inhabited spaces until such time as repairs can be completed to the optimal containment chamber. Description: SCP-045 is Nyko's hidden composed of Ice 7. Footnote: a metastable form of waterite that is typically formed only within a narrow range of very high pressures and temperatures, heavily occluded with planar fractures in a regular complex pattern. SCP-045 is an average radius of 1.7 meters and density of 2.6 grams times 2.3 grams per centimeter cubed, which is approximately twice that of non-anomalous Ice 7. SCP-045 remains in a stable state as temperatures ranging from SCP-074 to 500 Kelvin. Negative 7.273 degrees Celsius to 227 degrees Celsius, and pressures ranging from 0.4 pascals to 3 gigapascals, approximately 3.5 microatmospheres to 29,600 microatmospheres. Although it is possible to melt or vaporize SCP-045 at temperatures and pressures outside of these ranges, the H2O involved is attracted to itself by unmeasurable remain within very close proximity unless forcibly separated. The water will refreeze as soon as conditions return to a position inside SCP-045 stable, right in A subportions kept separate prior to refreezing will freeze into smaller icosahedrons identical in form and properties to the total amount of SCP-045. Based on available evidence, it is currently believed that SCP-045 is a three-dimensional projection of a Hyperion icosahedron. Footnote 2: a regular polyhedron that exists in 4 spatial dimensions and has 600 regular tetrahedral facets. Research is ongoing to determine how SCP-045 is capable to maintain a stable lower dimensional projection and whether this can be adapted to use when interaction with other dimensionally anomalous SCP items of an unpredictable intervals ranging from 2 weeks to 3 months. SCP-035 will spontaneously rotate around multiple axes simultaneously for a period no longer than 73 sections. During this period, a series of small seismic events less than 2.5 on the Richter scale will occur in the immediate area of SCP-045. If SCP-045 is prevented from rotating, the seismic events will increase in strength logarithmically to a maximum of 5.3 on the Richter scale. Following the end of the rotation period, the radius of SCP-045's effect will temporarily double for the same amount of time that it is rotated. When gaseous nitrogen or argon, footnote, nitrogen composes approximately 78% of of the Earth's atmosphere by volume. Argon composes approximately 0.93% of the Earth's atmosphere by volume. Coming in 3.7 meters of any portion of SCP-055, they are replaced by different compounds. N2 is replaced by liquid water at a conversion rate of 1.00 mol N2 to 198 mol H2O, and AR is replaced by crystalline Naki table salt at a conversion rate of 1.00 mol AR to 4.26 mol NACI. And SCP-025 was discovered in 1972 on a Foundation submarine scanning the Pacific abyssal plains for suitable locations from the sea bases. It was diverted to investigate the epicenter of a series of events unexpectedly localized from SCP-045 was found walking across this, which had apparently prevented it from rotating. When removed from the crevice, it was brought towards the vessel for further study, and upon coming within range of the interior atmosphere, exhibits a anomalous fact. Consolidated a catastrophic breach of internal containment protocols, and also 12 crew members prior to SCP-045 being released and the submarine moving out of range. And following several years of testing, it was accidentally discovered that SCP-045 also converts hydrogen gas into a random mixture of simple amino acids at a rate of 1 mol H2 to 0.04 mol amino acids. However, this conversion only occurs when the gas is diffused in saline water, such as that produced by SCP-045. Analysis of the sea for surrounding the location where SCP-045 was discovered has revealed a large community of microfauna and microflora, which is approximately 3 times as diverse as would be expected given the geography and location. All have biochemistry, wherein the amino acids produced by SCP-045 are statistically overabundant as compared to microbiotic from similar geologic reasons. Additionally, all thrive when immersed in pure salt water devoid of other organic materials. Yeah, something tells me that this is just going to be a long article. Yeah, something tells me that this is going to be a really painful article, but I have 10 minutes. Item number SCP-046, object class equals regular name, procedures, line surrounding SCP-046 and the pouches and surrounded by multiple layers of security, including fencing, barricades, and lethal effects. Multiple signs marking the area as private property to be prominently displayed. The area is to be heavily guarded at all times to prevent access by civilians to SCP-046. All personnel working around or within a 50-kilometer radius of SCP-046 are to undergo rigorous medical testing to ensure the absence of any potentially life-threatening illnesses. Additionally, increased mental health examinations to be administered to ensure that no personnel inclined or potentially inclined towards self-harm or other self-destructive tendencies are allowed within 50-kilometer radius. Any injured personnel to be evacuated to a hospital outside of the 50 kilometers around SCP-046, and all vegetation surrounding SCP-046 is to be destroyed, and all animals attempting to access SCP-046 to be terminated and destroyed before reaching its outer perimeter. Any personnel showing unusual interest in either an SCP-046 or in traveling to the region near SCP-046 to be terminated and destroyed before reaching its outer perimeter. Any personnel showing unusual interest in either an SCP-0 to undergo medical examinations as detailed above. Any modification to these containment procedures to be approved by L5 command before being added to this containment document. And any personnel attempting to modify this document without appropriate authorizations are to be demoted and reassigned. Description: SCP-046 is a predatory botanical mass location in southwestern Kentucky. SCP-046 is composed of 2 parts. SCP-046-1 is a large mass of vegetative matter composed largely of plants indigenous to the region, including Clidialba, Ilex aquifolium, and Lanaceus sempervirens, although several offshoots component of other plants are also present. SCP-046-2 is in the land of the immediate vicinity of SCP-046-1, extending to a roughly circular area 20 meters in radius from its base. This area is SCP-046's primary feeding area. SCP-046 is capable of attracting prey within a 50-kilometer radius through hallucinogenic means. All evacuations of personnel should carry them outside of this radius to disable SCP-046 that affect animals, including humans, suffering from potentially life-threatening physical injuries or diseases, or who are afflicted by psychological disorders that induce self-destructive tendencies, feel a powerful compulsion to come to SCP-046 to align a prostrate position facing SCP-046 one individuals lying in such a position are rapidly attacked by an unusually powerful combination of from the organisms and opportunistic infections, including several strains of melatonin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus (MRSA), they are known to induce necrotizing keratin or black mold, which poisons prey organisms and induces paralysis, and finally complete consumption by several hurtful unknown species of insect that emerge from the inside of SCP-046-1 during the final stage of feeding. SCP-046 appears to derive nutrition through the complete digestion of affected individuals, particularly large mammals such as humans. It is unknown whether SCP-046 is capable of growth. As such, all steps to be taken to ensure that SCP-046 is deprived of prey until more information is known about its abilities. These efforts are to include terminating individuals prior to their arrival at SCP-046 and disposing of their bodies at a separate location. Addendum 046-A investigation is ongoing into potential mimetic effect brought about by knowledge of SCP-046 due to anomalous effects demonstrated by certain personnel in response to SCP-046. Access to document 046-07 is restricted to level 4 personnel and above. That document 046-07 item number SCP-046 object class safe throttle containment procedures. The land surrounding SCP-046 is to be cordoned off marked as private property and surrounded by multiple layers of fencing. The area is to be guarded by no less than 10 guards, although minimal range armaments are required. While knowledge of SCP-046's effect is not to be made widely known, personnel affected with life-threatening diseases may be permitted to enter SCP-046-2 after psychological screening for self-destructive tendencies. Likewise, D-class personnel selected for termination may be effectively exposed to SCP-046-2 to facilitate this process. Due to lack of threat to Foundation security, individuals not employed by the Foundation may be permitted access to SCP-046. The Foundation needs for access take first priority. Description: SCP-046 is composed of two parts. SCP-046-1 is a cylindrical area 5 meters in diameter and 30 meters tall, containing several species of plant matter, including Quetzalbird, white oak, Ilex aquifolium, European holly, version located Sarpinivens, Kentucky honeysuckle, although several offshoots of other plant species are also present. No normal strengths have been detected in the molecular composition of the plants. SCP-046-2 is a clearing of rock extending approximately 20 meters around SCP-046-1. SCP-046 is enormous effect and extend principally to animals, including humans, that are threatened by chronic or debilitating illnesses or injuries. SCP-046 is frequently visited by such individuals. Humans of this type report having a compulsion to travel to SCP-046's location, often reporting that the location came to them in a dream. Psychological evaluations have consistently shown that such individuals were not previously aware of the Foundation or SCP-046 specific properties. Individuals feeling this compulsion have all reported being within a 50-kilometer radius of SCP-046 at the time. This is believed to be the outer range of the object's compulsive. Individuals who come in to SCP-046 consistently describe a dream in which they lie down in the vicinity of SCP-046-1 and rest immediately upon entering SCP-046-2. Individuals suffering from chronic pain or traumatic mental conditions will describe their symptoms as receding, accompanied by a feeling of calmness, relaxation, and euphoria. Individuals lying down in front of SCP-046-1 will begin to be covered by several vines similar to those of Cyanodactyl plants, also known as Bermuda grass, followed by the apparent sprouting of seed dactyl all over the body. SCP-046 has no compulsive properties, and its effects will only manifest on individuals willing to experience the effects voluntarily. Individuals exposed to SCP-046 will remain communicative until they are no longer visible beneath the grass growing across their bodies. All individuals exposed to SCP-046 effects describe a feeling of peace and serenity and happiness that they were able to die pleasantly. SCP-046 appears to fully decompose individuals exposed to its effects within 2 hours and may or may not be used decomposing decomposed tissue of the fetal addendum 046-1. SCP-046 to be reclassified as a Euclid primary containment document to be rewritten to demonstrate SCP-046's predatory nature by order of 05 Command A. References to voluntary individuals as to be removed. Description to be rewritten to emphasize volatile and lethal nature of SCP-046 and potential threat thereof. I'm gonna go and get my dad, because he needs to be here at least once an hour to prevent me from breaking YouTube's community guidelines, and because I'm not a terrible human being and I don't regularly break rules, let's go. But let's go is a bit of a wrong term since I'm the only person going. It's a term to demonstrate excitement because I'm excited to get my dad. Because I want to show Dad that I'm on SCP-046 already.
Hello, young man. How are you doing? Have you completely worn your throat out yet? Do I need to have my face examined? Alexa? Sounds on. Right.
Wow, I'm under direct adult supervision.
Oh yes,
You see this YouTube? Don't stop my live stream and issue me a warning because this man exists. This man exists.
Oh, are you warm enough, young man?
Yeah, I am fine. I might need a drink though.
Oh yeah. Blimey! Oh, so you're doing well then?
Yeah. What's that?
He's got up to SCP-046.
Oh, right.
So that's how. Yeah, so that's a fair old bit of reading, isn't it? Oh.
There it is.
Ah. We've got one holiday we've got in place already as a backup, but we're trying to find something more cost effective. But it'll still be in the same sort of area and things, so we're basically trying to find something that's cheaper. So it'll be basic sort of what we're looking at the moment. We're looking at sort of either a lodge or sort of a house type thing. That one, I'm liking the look of that because you're
It's very green.
yeah. Don't you worry, young man. I've put some regular posts on Facebook. So I think very safe, and I will do more for you. So I think if anything, that one. No, it's cool. We'll have it all sorted out.
Addendum 046-2. There is no evidence whatsoever that SCP-046 is predatory or has any desire to harm any creature unwilling to expose itself to SCP-046 as a fact. Suggests original containment procedure to be reenacted and voluntary access to SCP-046 continued. No individuals are capable of breaching Foundation security once exposed to SCP-046. As such, there is no reason to deny afflicted individuals the opportunity for release. Likewise, there are no reason to make the sanity seem more hostile than it actually is, aside from the desire to portray every object in Foundation custody as dangerous. Some things must be contained simply because they are strange. Dr. Edward Carter, head researcher, SCP-046, Addendum 046-3, Dr. Carter, head principal researcher for SCP-046, is to be removed from his position and reassigned to the SCP-1250 project. Addendum 046-1 stands by order of 05 Command. Item number SCP-047 object class key to spell containment procedure. SCP-047 is to be contained in a 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter by 1 meter hermetically sealed storage box at all times. This box is to be locked in storage locker 047A inside P3 secure biohazard lab 047B. Any entrance to an activity inside 047B will be recorded by biometric scan closed circuit camera and redact. The entry to 047B requires the authorization of the project manager in addition to at least 105 level clearance. SCP-047 is to be treated as a priority for contained biohazard in all protocols, including mandatory quarantine if exposed. Suite Q-047 has been provided adjunct to Lab 047B for this purpose. In the event of outside contamination of SCP-047-1, lockdown protocols SCP-047-01 Yersinia must be engaged. Description: SCP-047 is a heavily rusted bridge gas cylinder made of an iron redacted alloy. When exposed to open air, the material of the cylinder evaporates slowly, producing a previously undocumented mutagenic gas. This gas has no effect on eukaryotic organisms, e.g. humans, but profoundly alters prokaryotes. Its growing preference for common human microbiota, the natural microorganisms that live on the skin and throughout the body. In rare occasions, these mutations produce a superbug, collectively known as SCP-047-1, natural commensal with enhanced survivability and therefore opportunistic pathogenicity. The pattern of changes induced by SCP-057 suggests that these highly infectious microbes are, at least to some degree, selected for. Although the specifics of SCP-047-1 specimens are dependent on the base bacterium from which it is derived, there are several characteristics which appear to be generally consistent across all cases of SCP-047-1 mutation. Enhanced survivability in the bacterium's natural environment and similar environments, full-spectrum antibiotic resistance, increased reproduction rate and consumption of available material, development of a sporulation ability in gram-positive bacteria, increased ability to uptake whole and share plasmids, particularly in gram-negative bacteria, increased transmission due to develop. SCP-047-1 samples are normally debilitating and virulent. However, compared to other key to class SCPs, it should be noted that SCP-047-1 have a relatively low mortality rate due to their action through mundane biological pathways. Several strains of bacteria have been selectively mutated by SCP-047. Mutation of bacteria in culture is possible, but the process appears to be much more effective with bacteria living on a human host. Generally, the mutation of natural commensals for experimental purposes is encouraged. After the containment rate to SCP-31-2010, the incident report Yersinia 047-01-2010 mutation of an already pathogenic species is banned, and all existing samples must be destroyed. 3 particular species of SCP-047-1 mutated bacteria of note due to their involvement in containment rate of 21 Propionibacterium 047-A is a strain of Propionibacterium acnes mutated by SCP-047. Pathogenicity: severe skin colonization around sebaceous glands, modification of skin pH levels that become toxic to skin cells, massive inflammation in human cells, and immune cells in infiltration, eventual breakdown skin structure leading to transmission. Transmitted by skin-to-skin contact can remain active in inorganic surfaces for up to 5 hours. Lethality approximately 40% mortality rate. Runs its course in 2 to 6 weeks. There are visible symptoms within 5 to 10 hours. Contagious within 2 to 5 hours. Handling: as soon as visible symptoms from victims must be quarantined. Deceased victims should be incinerated. Streptococcus 047-3 is a strain of Streptococcus metis mutated by SCP-047. Pathogenicity: causes inflammation of the mouth and esophagus. Initially leads to open sores in the mouth which result in S047 and -C and entering the bloodstream and becoming septic. Death is usually due to infection and transmission droplet. Can remain alive indefinitely by sporulation. Lethality: approximately 35% mortality rate. May become a recurrent chronic condition if non-lethal for handling. Subjects with any sign of mouth infection should be quarantined. Deceased victim should be incinerated. Clause Freedom 047-A is a strain of Clause Freedom difficile mutated by SCP-047. Pathogenicity unknown. C047-A was developed from tissue culture and has never been exposed to a human. No samples remain in Foundation control. Transmission unknown. Presumably transmitted through fecal contamination, as with seed difficile. Just smaller, more robust spores may also aerolify with flatus. Effects of aerosol intake of C047-A cannot be predicted. Lethality unknown. Presumed extremely high risk of destruction and endothelial lining of gastrointestinal tract, leading to inflammation, sepsis, toxic megacolon handling. Until further research has been done, victims should be quarantined and placed on the 24-hour medical observation to develop functional diagnostics for this strain. Victims should not be incinerated until adequate ecological research has been performed. Recovery log 047, SCP-047 was commented on site. Beep, secure laboratory by Foundation Biohazard Recovery Team responsible for compromised situation on beep, 1990. Beep. Technology indicates in the research the research team was attempting to contain data expunged in a class with beep. SCP stable question or was letter redacted combining with redact. So the full molecular biological analysis of this is available in redacted. The initial release of gas when SCP-047 was structurally compromised was sufficient to cause a microbial bloom of uncounted species of SCP-047-1, killing all staff in the lab within beep, and was exposed inside beep. Staff were based standard Foundation quarantine / containment protocol, and the infection was contained successfully. Item number SCP-048, object class none. See descriptions, relevant containment procedures. The designation SCP-048 is to be retired from the SCP catalog. No future SCPs are to be assigned this number. Description: SCP-048 has long been considered the cursed SCP number by SCP staff. Any items given this designation tend to be destroyed, decommissioned, stolen, or otherwise lost to the Foundation, usually through no fault of any individual person. In addition, personnel assigned to SCP-048 and its various incarnations have had a 50% higher rate of turnover due to death, dismemberment, and disciplinary action. Whether or not the number 048 actually has any supernatural qualities is unknown, but given the superstition around this number, the designation has been removed from the catalogue in order to help maintain employee morale. Item 1. This is ridiculous. I'll prove to you superstitious expletives, the all just being expletives. The restriction on SCP-048 is now removed and reassigned to data expunged. Dr. Cortez. SCP-048 data expunged was accidentally thrown into the trash this morning and lost in an unrelated incident. Dr. Cortez's arms was accidentally traumatically amputated in a horrific confront blunder incident. SCP-048 closed 0511. Addendum 3. SCP-048 has once again been removed from the archives after it became highly apparent that no such vampire bow had ever existed, much less come under Foundation control. They firmly believe this error occurred when a low-level researcher attempted to save his awesome story idea to his hard drive and instead overwrote the blank slot reserved for SCP-048. Said researcher has been removed for any and all archival duties for the time being. 0511. This is the big one. This is a very, very large SCP. It's a long article, I mean. But luckily some of it is audio log, so it will read for me. Item number SCP-049, object class equals special containment procedure. SCP-049 is contained within a secure humanoid containment zone. Research sector 02 of Site 19. SCP-049 must be sedated before any attempts to transport it. During transport, SCP-049 must be secured in a class-3 humanoid destruction harness, including a locking collar and extension restraints, and monitored by no fewer than 2 armed guards. While SCP-049 is generally cooperative with most Foundation personnel, outbursts of sudden changes in behavior are to be met with elevated force. Under no circumstances should any personnel come into direct contact with SCP-049 during these outbursts. In the event that SCP-049 becomes aggressive, the application of lavender, L-Malfidate, has been shown to produce a calming effect on the entity. Once calmed, SCP-049 has generally become compliant and will return to containment with little resistance. In order to facilitate the ongoing containment of SCP-049, the entity is to be provided with the corpse of recently deceased animal, typically a bovine or other large mammal, once every 2 weeks. For study courses that become instances of SCP-049-2 are to be removed from SCP-049's containment cell and incinerated. SCP-049 is no longer permitted to interact with human subjects, and requests for human are to be denied. And some temporary containment procedure updates. See Addendum 049.3 per Containment Committee of Order 049.S19.17.1 is SCP-049 is no longer permitted to interact directly with any members of Foundation staff, nor is it to be provided with any additional corpses to be used in its surgeries. This order shall persist indefinitely until such time consensus regarding the ongoing containment of SCP-049 can be reached. Description: SCP-049 is a humanoid entity roughly 1.9 meters in height, which bears the appearance of a medieval plague doctor. While SCP-049 appears to be wearing thick robes and ceramic mask indicative of that professional garments instead seem to have grown out of SCP-049's body over time. Footnote: the robes and gloves are identical to a thick hide built up on the skin, where the mask is composed of chitin growing out of the bones on the face, and are now nearly indistinguishable from whatever is beneath them. X-rays indicate that despite this, SCP-049 does have a humanoid skeletal structure beneath its outer layer. SCP-049 is capable of speech in a variety of languages, though tends to prefer English or medieval French. A footnote: the entity claims to have originated in 15th century France, though admits that it is particularly well travelled. While SCP-049 is generally cordial and cooperative with Foundation staff, it can become particularly irritating, or at times outright aggressive if it feels it is in the presence of what it calls the pestilence. Although the exact nature of the pestilence is currently unknown to Foundation such as it does seem to be an issue of immense concern to SCP-049. SCP-049 will become hostile with individuals it sees being affected by the pestilence, often having to restrain it should it encounter such. If left unchecked, SCP-049 will generally attempt to kill any such individual. SCP-049 is capable of causing all biological functions of an organism to cease through direct skin contact. How this occurs is currently unknown, and autopsies of SCP-049's victims can invariably be inconclusive. SCP-049 has expressed frustration or remorse after these killings, indicating that they have done little to kill the pestilence. They will then usually seek to perform crude surgery in the corpse while using the implements contained in the black doctor's bag it carries on its person at all times. Footnote: the space within this bag is seemingly enormously large. SCP-049 has been observed pulling objects larger than the bag itself from the bag and also prey on deceased subjects. While these surgeries are not always successful, they often rely on the creation of instances of SCP-049-2. SCP-049-2 instances of reanimated corpses that have been operated on by SCP-049. These instances do not seem to retain any of their prior memories or mental functions, having only basic motor skills and response mechanisms. While these instances are generally inactive, moving very little in a generally ambulatory fashion, they can become extremely aggressive if provoked or if directed to by SCP-049. SCP-049-2 instances express active biological functions, though these are vastly different from currently understood human physiology. Despite these alterations, SCP-049 often remarks how the subjects have been cured. Addendum 049.1 Discovery. The SCP-049 was discovered during the investigation of a series of unknown disappearances in the town of Montauban in southern France. During a raid in the local home, investigators found several instances of SCP-049-2 as well as SCP-049. While law enforcement personnel engaged the hostile SCP-049-2 instances, SCP-049 was noted as watching the engagement and taking notes in its journal. After all of the SCP-049-2 instances were dispatched, SCP-049 willingly entered Foundation custody. The following interview was conducted by Dr. Raymond Ham following the initial investigation.
Is that French? Translating English. Translation. I can speak it well enough. Good. My name is Dr. Raymond Ham, and I am a doctor. A like-minded individual, no doubt. Wherein is your speciality, sir? Cryptobiology. Why? A medical man such as myself wanders abound, and here I worried I had been abducted by common street thugs. This place, then, this is your laboratory. I had wondered, as clean as it is, and with such little trace of the pestilence here. The pestilence? What do you mean? The scourge. The great dying. Come now. You know the... What is it they call it? The remember. Fortunately, I am very close. It is my duty in life to rid the world of it, you see. The cure to end all cures. When you say the great dying, are you talking about the bubonic plague? I don't know what that is. I see. Right, well, the entities are agents encountered at the house. They were dead when you encountered them. Yes, you reanimated them. In a manner of speaking, you see things too simply, Doctor. Expand your horizons. Life and death. Sickness and health. These are amateur terms for amateur physicians. There is only one ailment that exists in the world of men, and that is the pestilence, and nothing else. Make no mistake, they were very ill. All of them. You think you cured those people? Indeed. My cure is most effective. The things we recovered were not human. Yes, well, it is not a perfect cure, but that will come with time and further experimentation. I've spent a lifetime developing my methods, Dr. Ann, and will spend a lifetime more if necessary. Now, we've wasted too much time. There is work to do. I will require a laboratory of my own, one where I can continue my research unimpeded. And assistance, of course, though I can provide those on my own. In time. I don't think our organization would be willing. Nonsense. We are all men of science. Fetch your code and show me to my quarters, Doctor. Our work begins now.
Don't you love it when there's an audio log? So it literally, this is doing my job for me. Interviewers know while SCP-049 is capable of communicating in a very human way, there is a strange sense of unease the one experiences when in its presence. Make no mistake, there is something very uncanny about this entity indeed. Additionally, we've complicated that pointed stick that SCP keeps waving around. Part of this was due to standard confiscation protocols for the possessions of anomalies, and part because 049 really is a menace swinging around like he does. The entity was displeased at first, but after we made some concessions in providing it with test subjects, which are admittedly more for the benefit of our own research, it warmed up to the idea. Addendum 049.2 Observational. While in containment of Site 19, SCP-049 spent a considerable amount of time studying, performing surgery on the various mammalian corpses that has been provided. SCP-049 will routinely spend several days performing surgery, and then, regardless of whether or not the corpse becomes an instance of SCP-049-2, spending several more days documenting its findings in a thick leathered journal stored within its doctor's bag. SCP-049 will often seek to share its findings with members of Foundation staff. The following is a log of several occasions during which SCP-049 was observed operating on a mammalian corpse. Observation log 049 .ol.1 Summary. Subjects SCP-049. Preface. The test subject D85123 was introduced into SCP-049's containment cell. The entity expressed sincere gratitude towards all members of the containment and research staff. Observation notes. SCP-049 began by asking D85123 several standard medical questions as it began removing tools from its bag. Shortly after finishing its preparation, SCP-049 quickly closed the distance between the two, killing the subject with a touch to its throat. Afterwards, SCP-049 made a number of considerable alterations to the basic structure of the subject's corpse, often introducing fluids from within its bag into the subject by way of a hand-powered pump and corpus tubing. The resulting 049-2 instance became animated, flaming grasping at the walls of the chamber with a number of manufactured limbs while moaning out of an oblong orifice now present in its sternum. During this time, SCP-049 was observed taking notes of the instance in its journal, remarking to the watching research staff about the efficacy of its kill. Security personnel entered the chamber to move SCP-049 back into containment and were attacked by the instance. The security team dispatched the SCP-049-2 instance, and SCP-049 returned to containment with no resistance, stating that it was pleased with the results. Observation log 049.0 OL.2 summary. Subject SCP-049. Preface. SCP-049 was provided the corpse of recently deceased girl. SCP-049 expressed gratitude at the provision. Observation notes. SCP-049 operated on the go corpse for several days, eventually resulting in an instance of SCP-049-2. SCP-049 expressed pleasure in this outcome, though he admitted the disease was still in its nascent stage. My veteran alien practice is rudimentary, but the patient responded well to the procedure. Observation log 049.ol.3 subject SCP-049. Preface. SCP-049 was provided the corpse of recently deceased orangutan. SCP-049 expressed noted gratitude at the provision due to the similarities between the orangutan and normal human physiology. Observation notes. SCP-049 spent several days operating on the orangutan, reanimating it several times. However, SCP-049 appeared to be discontent with the results it experienced, resulting in the creature 3 times after its initial reanimation for additional work. After it was unable to reanimate the corpse a 5th time, SCP-049 turned the corpse over to Foundation staff for incineration, stating, "I have learned so much from this, though I fear my early optimism was misplaced. I haven't yet come across such a stumbling block on my road to the cure. More subjects like this would do a great deal in advancing my research." Observation log 049.ol.7 full. Subject SCP-049. Preface. SCP-049 was provided the corpse of recently deceased bovine. SCP-049 expressed mild annoyance at the profession, though accepted it nonetheless. SCP-049 stated its desire to work on human subjects several times between this occasion and the earlier provision of an orangutan, noting its discontentedness when they would not be provided. Observation notes. SCP-049 spent several days operating on the bovine corpse, breaking only to dine on a requested dinner of thin crackers, salted pork, and hard cheese. SCP-049 has expressed that it does not require sustenance, but enjoys it and feels that the food helps put it in the right mood to operate. Beginning first by embalming the corpse, SCP-049 was observed producing a number of long syringes from its bag, each containing a different dark viscous fluid. SCP-049 described these fluids as the essence of the tumors and elaborated by saying the pestilence may bring about a systemic imbalance. In such a case, before true healing can begin, one must find the tumors in balance or the body will reject the cure. 6. SCP-049 added to the statement by saying, "This is of course elementary knowledge for the practical physician. I would have thought you would have learned this during your education." Over the next few days, SCP-049 spent a considerable amount of time adjusting the organs of the bovine corpse with a number of large metal instruments. After 8 days, SCP-049 produced a lightning rod, which Dr. Ham exchanged for an electric cattle prod attached to an extension cord and struck the corpse in several locations. This action seemingly had the effect of reanimating the bovine, which once again became ambulatory despite the inversion of the head and reorientation of the limbs. Follow-up interview. Begin log.
We've watched you work for several weeks now, and honestly, I'm not sure I understand what you're doing. Could you describe your process in detail? Oh, goodness, no. The process is most intensive. As I said to your assistant, the best instruction you will find about my methods are here in my journals, as I have kept exhaustive records of my work there. I see.
Footnote. Notably, SCP-049's journals are not written in any known language, and attempts by linguists and code breakers to decipher them have been unsuccessful.
My concern, Doctor, is that we still don't understand what you're seeking to cure, how it manifests, or how turning these creatures into quasi-living, mindless drones helps in that effort. You do not understand the pestilence, even after all this time. Doctor, it is an unspeakable horror, one that has shown its true face many times before, and will again. I find myself blessed with the wisdom and good senses needed to root it out and destroy it. But many, like yourself, cannot. It is a cruel judgment, I fear, to be at the mercy of a disease you cannot fully comprehend. That still doesn't answer my question. How should you cure any kind of cure at all? It is a cure. You may laugh at my efforts if you please, but do not besmirch the good name of scientific progress that has developed this great mercy. What you short-sightedly see here is a life better than any hardly a creature at all, Doctor. Snotty, do not jape with me, sir. You and your colleagues are like so many others, unable to look past minor setbacks to see the salvation taking place before your very eyes. Do you wait to remove rotten timbers until the whole collapses on top of you? No. You find them and you pull them out and replace them with those untouched by rot. And most of all, you do not simply mock the structure because it now looks different to you. It is strong. It is free of disease. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to agitate you. I'm just trying to understand. Yes. Well, do mind your words in the future, Doctor. I am a professional, but even professionals may feel the bite of pride in dealing with criticism of their masterpiece. I will forgive this as an act of good faith between colleagues. Is there anything else I can help you with? No, that will be all. Another test subject on the usual schedule. You know my preference of subjects with more human anatomies.
Attending researchers note, SCP-049 does seem to genuinely want to help other humans, though it has not yet been able to provide a concrete example of what exactly it is trying to save us all from. I have watched it now over several weeks, and while the outcomes do not seem to have changed, SCP-049 continues to claim that it is growing closer to its perfect cure. I think the entity may be more aware of the reality of these outcomes than it would like us to think. Addendum 049.3, 046.16.2017 incident. Stating shortly after SCP-049's initial containment, Dr. Ham conducted a number of interviews with the subject regarding its anomalous properties, and over time began to note its displeasure with its subject and the SCP-049-2 instances. This continued for a period of several months, during which SCP-049 never exhibited any aggressive behaviors. On April 16, 2017, as Dr. Ham was entering SCP-049's test chamber to conduct another routine interview, the entity began to grow anxious and Dr. Ham if he was feeling well. Following protocol, Dr. Ham reminded him that the interviews were required, after which the entity became hostile and attacked Dr. Ham, killing him due to a lapse in security protocol, and because Dr. Ham did not activate the in-chamber emergency system. Dr. Ham's corpse was not discovered until 3 hours later, by which point SCP-049 converted it into an instance of SCP-049-2. In the aftermath of this incident, SCP-049 was interviewed by Dr. Theron Sherman.
I need you to explain yourself. SCP-049, you are being directed to explain your actions. And I will remind you that failure to cooperate will result in further restrictions during your containment. My actions do not need to be explained. You killed Raymond Ham, and then butchered him until he was dead. No, not dead. He is cured. Cured? Cured of what? Pestilence, sir. I thought you, at least, would realize what luck it is. I detected it. What pestilence? You keep going on and on about this pestilence, but you have not once been able to properly identify this disease. What could you have possibly seen in him today that you had not seen so many times before, that it would be worth his life? The pestilence presents and progresses in unforeseeable fashions, and has a queer way of creeping into the unprepared. And call it what you want, Doctor. It was a mercy I did to him. He is cured. He is a vegetable.
I like that line.
I would not expect you to understand. You and your ilk have proven time and time again not to be men of science, but men of emotion. You cannot appreciate the horrors I have seen. Those many millions who have succumbed to the pestilence and been changed. Your cure cost Ray his life. No, good sir, I have saved it. You would allow this world to slip back into the despair of disease and death, ignoring that I have created a miracle. What disease? What pestilence? He was a healthy man. He was a good doctor. I'm offering it freely to the afflicted. You are not worth this argument, sir. You are short-sighted and foolish. Dr. Ham was sick, and I cured him. I am the only one who can do this. My work must continue. There is still so much to learn, so much. I can't do for this. Zero allowances be saved. Even you. Welcome to containment 049. Might be saved. We're done here. I can save them all. I can cast down this plague once and for all. I can do this. Only me. I saved him. I saved him. Dr. Ham. I cured him. He was sick. I know he was sick. I know he was. And you are all sick. But I can save you. I can save all of you because I am the cure.
End log. Addendum 049.4. Post-incident report review. The following interview is next from the 4/6/17 from the 4/16/17/049 incident report. The interview was conducted by Dr. Elijah Itkin and took place 3 weeks after the start of the initial investigation. Date 5/7/7. Date 5/7/17. Interviewer Dr. Elijah Itkin. Interviewee SCP-049 and begin log.
This interview to close out our investigation of your actions taken on April 16th that resulted in the death of a staff member. Do you have any comments to make? Only that I look forward to the day when you will allow me to resume my work. I have spent the last few weeks compiling my notes and constructing a new theory about how the pestilence was able to infect someone in such an insidious manner that I nearly couldn't detect it. Have you experienced any remorse for your actions? For the death of Dr. Ham? Yes. Well, the death of a colleague is always regrettable, but in the face of the pestilence, we must be swift, Doctor, and act without hesitation. Dr. Sherman noted in his report that you seemed to be mournful during your initial interview. Perhaps I had not thought that. It is lamentable that a fellow doctor became infected, but the work continues. Regrettable as it was, Dr. Ham's death provided important insight. Living human subjects are the only way to proceed forward, I have decided. My cure is of little use on dead flesh, and I have gleaned all I can from your generous supply of corpses. My desires turn towards tending to those still living who suffer from the disease. I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. Oh, Doctor, I wouldn't be so sure.
End log. Item number SCP-050 object class equals special containment procedures. So far, all attempts to contain SCP-050 have proven fruitless. Footnote: testing to contain SCP-050 has been discontinued at this time. At present, whoever has possession of SCP-050 is to leave it in an office they use with regularity. Footnote: attempts to leave SCP-050 when unused offices have resulted in following its own in the home. This is a violation of regulations and not to be allowed. Description: SCP-050 appears to be a statue of a monkey reading a book approximately 1 foot. Footnote: one of the quirks of SCP-050 is that no matter what form of measurement is used, any record of said measurements will quickly be replaced by the customary system measurements tool. On the bottom of the statue are engraved the words "to the cleverest" in cursive script. The statue has so far proven resistant to all forms of damage. Attempts to damage SCP-050 have resulted in increasingly lethal pranks. As of this writing, destruction testing is discontinued. As such, there is no accurate method to date the object. When left alone, SCP-050 has shown itself to be both useful and antagonistic to its current owner. See document 050. Footnote: see document 050. Although never seen to move, no matter the manner or amount of recordings any room it is in becomes very clean to polish whenever possible. Paperwork is filed, trash is emptied, and in general clutter is removed. However, SCP-050 has a tendency to leave traps for its owner, so current holders should carefully check their offices upon returning. Interview SCP item number SCP-051. Object class safe. Containment procedures. SCP-051 and SCP-051-A are to be kept in a sealed containment facility. SCP-051-A is to be kept within a locked climate control document box with a viewing window to prevent degradation of its material. Any personnel, with the exception of pregnant or non-sterile female women who may not be aware of an early stage pregnancy, may access SCP-051 as well as a request is made beforehand and cleared by site administration. Description: SCP-051 is a 25 centimeters, 10-inch anatomically correct model of a human female carved out of ivory with typically Asian features. Microscopic analysis shows that the head hair is human. Head doll is jointed at the shoulders, hips, and knees. The stomach area of the doll is fully removed. There's someone else watching this. There's someone else watching. Sorry, I just looked around and I just saw two people. The doll is jointed at the shoulders, hips, and knees. The stomach area of the doll is fully removable as a cap of ivory, exposing a detailed rib cage and organs, and a 2.5 centimeter, 1-inch ivory fetus connected to the main figure by a leather cord umbilicus. When brought into the presence of a pregnant human female, SCP-051 has various delete-free effects on the pregnancy, generally resulting in miscarriage of the fetus. Reports result in dental compulsion to handle the model, open its stomach cap and take out the fetus. This results in nausea and cramping within 5 minutes, vaginal bleeding that begins as spotting and may progress to hemorrhage within the next half hour, and miscarriage within 2 to 24 hours in most recorded cases. Medical records indicate that the aborted fetus bear moderate to severe defects. Pregnancies carried to term after exposure to the model have resulted in severely deformed live births, including beep, deaths of the mothers and beep, infants terminated off the birth by the delivering physician. See interview 051-1 below. Witnesses to these live births show signs of severe emotional trauma that was alleviated after Foundation interviews by administration of a Class A and SCP-051-A is a fragment of text on white paper that was discovered with SCP-051. The surviving text is written with a plant-derived ink test dated to the 12th century, and the characters have been identified as a nominally dialect of Japanese. Translation reveals the text as part of a spell against demons that attack unborn babies. The incantation orders these four demons into the model and sell a pregnant woman claims to trap them there. However, centuries have engraved the paper and ink so that the full incantation and instructions, if any, cannot be deciphered. Addendum: SCP-051 and SCP-051-A were discovered in a box of early Japanese artifacts. Where was I? Doors anonymously to the Beep Museum in 1938. After 16 years and a number of incidents resulting from contact by female secretaries, research institutes, and agent on staff in the museum's archives learned of its properties and obtained it for Foundation study. Let's go and read the document of the train. Item number SCP-052, object class equals broken containment procedures. Although it is not possible to remove SCP-052 from New York City subway systems, predictable behavior allows the Foundation to prevent the public from encountering it. The 59th Street ABCD station is to be closed to the public from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. on Saturdays/Sundays on the pretext of track maintenance. During that time, the station is to be staffed with agents with mobile task force Gamma Sticks. Agents have been ordered to prevent accidental public access to the station and to capture anyone seen leaving SCP-052. Anyone who has been seen on SCP-052 must be transported to Site 21 for debriefing and processing. Members of the public who see SCP-052 may be released after the administration of a Class B method. Description: SCP-052 is a type car for New York City subway train. Official records indicate this train was built in 1932 and decommissioned for scrap in 1975. Nevertheless, it continues to appear on the Uptown AD track at the 59th Street and 8th Street and 8th Avenue station at 11:57 p.m. every Saturday. The train is in perfect condition and labelled as an A train. SCP-052 appears at the designated time, opens its doors to accept/discharge passengers for approximately 5 minutes, then closes its doors and disappears. It does not appear to ever contain passengers except for those leaving the train during its appearance. The majority of subjects that boarded SCP-052 have not been recovered. Passengers leaving SCP-052 to claim to have bought forward on various days from 1976 up until 2004. The latter claims he saw SCP-052 with a 300th anniversary special train. Subjects retain no knowledge of time on board. Addendum: passengers leaving SCP-052 must be brought to Site 21 and interrogated to determine their origin and possible threat to the current time stream. Generally, passengers from the past may be given Class A amnestics and reintegrated into society. Passengers from the future must be held indefinitely. See Order 69-A1 from 05-9. Site 21 currently holds 26 recovered passengers. Despite our protocols to prevent public access, we are still receiving subjects from the future, although some are from alternate timelines. It is possible that SCP-052 will begin to appear at another time/place, requiring expanded containment. The Foundation has placed several subjects onto the train in an attempt to understand its activities when not visible. Test 052-1, May 31st, 2009. Agent B placed on train, not recovered as of present. Test 052-2, June 6, 2009. Agent B enters train, not recovered as he apparently returned to 1980 and was killed in a confrontation with redacted. That sounds like another SCP. Wasn't there an SCP in which an unnamed person in 1980 is killed? Test 052-3. See notes from recovered passenger 052-4. After test 052-3, Alpha Command issued orders to notify the agent with the rest of the passengers and SCP-052 consideration has been given to using Class C personnel in their place, with the risk of releasing them into the past issue. Right. Log of recovered passengers in Foundation custody. Passenger 052-1 entered train July 14, 25. Recovered March 8, 2008. Notes: an accountant on the way home from the theatre when she entered the train 052-1 has expressed surprise and dismay to have travelled back in time for 4 years, but appears to be otherwise unchanged and unharmed. She has been determined to currently exist in this timeline and must be held indefinitely to prevent unwanted temporal effects. Passenger 052-2 entered train June 12, 1976. Recovered March 15, 2008. Note: subject entered the train when lost on the way to Studio 54. Although unharmed, not a temporal threat. 052-2 is being held as the examining psychiatrist believes 32 years is too long a period over which to facilitate a successful reintegration. Passenger 052-3 entered train December 6, 2014. Recovered June 20, 2009. Notes: a tourist from Jacksonville, Florida. Subject 052-3 now speaks Albanian instead of English. Held due to 05 orders are a subject from the future as well as possible reintegration difficulties. Passenger 052-4 entered train June 13, 2009. Recovered June 27, 2009. Notes: Agent B from test 052-3. Agent returned with hands surgically removed and a note in his pocket with the message send no more. Subject did not remember his experience on the train, but when subjected to hypnosis, revealed data expunged. As passenger 052-5, Agent B entered train at unknown future date in violation of protocol. On July 11, 2009, body of subject was violently thrown from the train, landing 10 meters away. On examination, subject was found to have been data expunged. Whether security should be increased to prevent subject from entering SCP-052 is under consideration. Passenger 052-6 B claims to be a level 4 supervisor from the SCP Federation who entered the train in December 21, 24. Subject has been administered a Class A prime amnestic prior to boarding and a successful attempts to avoid the fate of passengers 052-4 and 052-5. Recovered February 6, 2010. As he will never be released from Foundation custody, 05 commands has approved sharing of otherwise classified information about other artifacts in our possession in hopes of gaining new methods of containment and becoming aware of future security breaches. Agent B has been cooperative and claims that it is good we do not know how to open SCP-699. Subject turns visibly pale and refuses to discuss this item further. Claimed to be a survivor of the Great Zombie Plague of 2092 caused by an SCP-008 containment breach. The SCP-B can be killed by data expunge with a data expunge and SCP-B. Permission to try this has been denied by 05-B. They work for Jack Bright. Dr. Jack Bright. Item number: SCP-053 object class useless total containment procedures. SCP-053 is contained in an area no less than 5 meters by 5 meters, 16 feet by 16 feet, and given adequate room to move. Toys, books, games, and other recreational devices are being amplified for and rotated every 3 months. Proper bedding, bathroom, and medical facilities are to be maintained at all times. Food should be provided 3 times daily, and 2 snacks are allowed if requested. No physical contact is to be made with SCP-053 without full atmosphere containment suit and an eye shield. No eye contact is to be made with SCP-053 for any reason. Any objects given to personnel by SCP-053 may be removed but must be given to quarantine for examination. Only one member of personnel may be present in the room at any given time and must be secured by a safety line of steel cable. All personnel must be removed from SCP-053's containment chamber within 10 minutes of any personnel who begin to act erratically, scream, or attempt to grab SCP-053 have to be removed and quarantined. Any personnel attempting to remove their suit are also to be removed and quarantined. No sharp objects or firearms to be allowed in SCP-053's containment chamber. Description: SCP-053 appears to be a small 3-year-old girl. She is capable of basic speech and appears to be slightly above average in mental development. She has a generally pleasant personality and rarely seems upset, becoming agitated only in the presence of groups of people. Any and all humans over the age of 3 who make eye contact with, physically touch, or remain around SCP-053 for longer than 10 minutes will rapidly become irrational, paranoid, and homicidal. Most, if not all, of these feelings will be directed at SCP-053, and afflicted subjects will attempt to kill SCP-053 after killing or driving off all humans visible. So those attempting to kill SCP-053 will suffer massive heart attacks or seizures and die seconds after doing any physical damage to SCP-053. SCP-053 will regenerate almost instantaneously from any wound, regardless of severity. SCP-053 appears wholly ignorant of these effects and ignores any and all subjects affected. When questioned about the effects, SCP-053 is incapable of response. Item number SCP-054, object health states, civilian name routines. Subject has a watertight isolation room outfitted with specialized climate control equipment. An ornate mountain filled with water stands in the center of the enclosure. Maintenance personnel are required to wear NBC suits while inside the containment area and must spend 10 minutes in the special drying room before accessing. In the event of a breach, the surrounding area should be evacuated and the enclosure flushed with liquid nitrogen. The Foundation's chemical levels involved chemical levels and volumes to be monitored and maintained. Spring water from beep should be used. SCP-054 is highly sensitive to hydrological conditions. SCP-054 has developed a mistrust for human males during its confinement. Thus, assignment of female personnel is recommended. Description: now of the water subject must often appear as a female feline with a mean volume of 90 liters comprised entirely of water. Other forms are possible, commonly geometric shapes. When it enters the body of water, it becomes indistinguishable from its surroundings. Subject must periodically return to a body of water in order to maintain its volume due to evaporation. Initially found as beep, it was moved to Site 08 for further study. Subject was initially curious about Foundation personnel and seemed to enjoy interacting with maintenance staff and researchers and mimicking their formed after a number of weeks. The creature apparently felt comfortable enough to remain out of the water during routine monitoring, though it retreated when attempts were made to study its composition. SCP-054 is apparently composed of normal water with no detectable difference compared to ordinary spring water from the same source. No thermal, electromagnetic, biological, or other phenomena has ever been detected in its body that would suggest how it animates. Water lost by SCP-054 to evaporation exhibits no special properties when condensed. Experiments with SCP-054 were halted following data expunge. 2 researchers injured. After this incident, containment protocols were updated. The subject thereafter exhibited signs of mistrust and aggression around male personnel, which made up the majority of the original research stuff. Subject reclassified Euclid. Partial transcript. Audio Journal 054-A water loss experiment. Subject becomes withdrawn and inactive when denied access to water. Its compact shape is theorized to reduce surface area exposed to evaporation. For the next few days, it moved eagerly to avoid anyone entering its enclosure and behaved excitedly, possibly indicates an understanding by the subject that we control its access to water supply. Subject ceased this behavior yesterday, presumably in recognition that no help was forthcoming. Temperature extreme testing. Got authorization to attempt sub-zero testing this morning. The subject became lethargic as the temperature fell completely after beep. Spectroscopy of the ice crystal revealed no abnormalities. Ice chips were collected for study. This is in stark contrast to the behavior in the 95-degree test when it became aggressive and attempted to escape its enclosure. We submitted a work order to combine the climate control equipment with the subject standard enclosure as it has begun to resist efforts to transport it to experimental chambers with increasingly desperate behavior. Memory and conditioning evaluations. Subjects proving unexpectedly out but navigating complex mazes and solving puzzles. Dr. Sesko has finally overcome the problem of motivating the subject by the application of electrical shocks and or silica desiccants. So he joked that we should have it trained to factor in no time, and after observing his methods, I think he might be right. No, subjects allow 48-hour recuperation period. It seems to be lagging in its progress at the end of this week of the week experiments. Acid-base incorporation experiment. Last login. I'm starting with a 0.5 HCI solution. I have no idea what would happen, but if this thing incorporates homeostatic mechanisms like I expect, then we should get some insight into how it maintains its form temperature, and the enclosure has been lowered to 278 Kelvin to help control 54's increasingly erratic behavior. And then 050-B, after 5 years with no incident, subject rating has been downgraded to safe on recommendation of Dr. Beep. Experiments will continue under the auspices of Biology Unit E7. Caution to still be exercised when interacting with subject. I'm gonna go and get my dad now. Hello. I can camera so that you can see my face, but it's not really necessary.
Hello again, yes. We'll get the account there. Right, I need to get my face on your screen again. Oh, I know. I need to start considering that way. Do you want an apple or milk or a banana just to keep you tied over for a few minutes? No, when is it going to be like? Probably about 7 o'clock, so about 40 minutes. Okay. You could use that lamp. I've refrozen that one. Actually, in fact, when I took it, I take it out of the box and put it in the freezer for the space, and it was still frozen. So it's still frozen solid. So, right, let me get my face on this thing, then I need to think about some sort of food.
I am on the directed supervision. YouTube, please do not murder me.
I'm very insulted the fact it thinks it can know my age. Oh, it says about 24. No, it doesn't.
No.
No.
My dad is a highly inappropriate and immature human being. Do not pay any attention to the child. Also, Dad, do you like my thing? How I have like my monitor, like one monitor is just giving, and then the other.
No, that's very good. It makes a good way of keeping track of things, doesn't it?
Yeah, thanks.
That's right, young man.
Please say someone's donated. Yes! Someone's donated! I'm just thanking the person who donated because someone donated! On Just Giving! Go into the description! You can get the Just Giving link if you want to donate as well. Be epic! Yeah. Smiley face. You just need a smiley face. Thank you for being insane with donations and surpassing all expectations. Making me. Yeah, that's fine, Dad. So I'm just /admin 240.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey. Yes. Yes, it's just.
What's that? I'm looking at.
Yes, it's virtually on there. Yes. No, no. I think the thing is you know, you know, I've been quite straight by mum here a little bit, but she's just that little strip along the top. I think it's somewhere along there where she used to go as a baby or a child. So to be honest, well, no, she won't mind. We're traveling distance with different things, aren't we?
Sorry, I'm just going on just giving and trying to.
It's exhausting, isn't it?
Right, let's get back to reading. Sorry, I just had to do some things involving just giving and Item number SCP-055 object class key. The special containment procedures. The object is kept within a 5x5 by 2.5 meter square room constructed of cement, 50 centimeter thickness with a Faraday cage surrounding the cement walls. Access is via a heavy containment door measuring 2 by 2.5 meters constructed on bearing to ensure door closes and locks automatically unless held open deliberately. Security guards are not to be posted outside SCP-055's room. It is further advised that all personnel maintaining or studying other SCP objects in the vicinity try to maintain a distance of at least 50 meters from the geometric center of the room, as long as this is reasonably practical. Description: SCP-055 is a stealth-keeping secret or anti-mimetic information about SCP-055's physical appearance, as well as its nature, behavior, and origin is self-classifying. To clarify, how Site-19 originally acquired SCP-055 is unknown. When SCP-055 was obtained and by whom is unknown. SCP-055's physical appearance is unknown. It is not indescribable or invisible. Individuals are perfectly capable of entering SCP-055's container and observing it, taking mental and or written road, making sketches, taking photographs, and even making audio/video recordings. An extensive log of such observations is on file. However, information about SCP-055's critical appearance leaks out of the human mind soon after such an observation. An individual's task was describing SCP-055 afterwards find their minds wandering and they lose interest in the task. Individuals tasked with sketching a copy of a photograph of SCP-055 are unable to remember what the photograph looks like as a researcher is overseeing the test security personnel have exhausted SCP-055 by a closed-circuit television camera was emerged after a full shift exhausted and effectively amnesiac about the events of the previous hours. Who authorized the construction of SCP-055's containment room, why it was constructed in this way, or what the purpose of the described containment procedures may be, are all unknown. Despite SCP-055's container being easily accessible, all personnel at Site-19 claim no knowledge of SCP-055's existence when challenged. All of these facts are periodically rediscovered, usually by chance readers of this file, causing a great deal of alarm. This state of concern lasts minutes at most before the matter is simply forgotten about. A great deal of scientific data has been recorded from SCP-055 but cannot be studied. At least one attempt has been made to destroy SCP-055 or possibly move it from containment of Site-19 to another site, meeting failure for reasons unknown. SCP-055 may present a major physical threat and indeed may have killed many hundreds of personnel and we would not know it. Suddenly it presents a giant nomadic/mental threat, hence its classification. Document 055-1 analysis of SCP-055. The author puts forward the hypothesis that SCP-055 was never formally acquired by Beep and is in fact an autonomous or remotely controlled agent inside at Site-19 by an unidentified third party for one or all of the following purposes: silently observe or interfere with activities of Site-19, silently observe or interfere with activities at other SCP locations, to silently observe or interfere with activities of SCP worldwide, silently observe or interfere with other SCP objects, silently observe or interfere with Beep No action to counter any of these possible potential threats is suggested or indeed theoretically possible. Then the mate, hey, if this thing really is an anti-meme, why doesn't the fact that it's an anti-meme get wiped? We must be wrong about that somehow. Wait a minute, why would we keep notes about it? About what it isn't? Will we remember those? Barclow Humans, an essay. Document 055-2, report of Dr. John Check Survey Team 19 055-127BXE was successfully able to enter SCP-055 container and ascertain the appearance and, to some degree, the nature of the objects. Notes were taken according to the project methodology. CB, after which the container was sealed. To get an excerpt from a transcript of personnel debriefing as follows. Dr. Who Cares? Okay, I'm going to ask you some questions about number 55 now. Beep. Number what? Dr. Who Cares? SCP Object 55, the object you just examined. Beep. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think we have a 55. Dr. Who Cares? Okay then, I'd like you to tell me what you've been doing for the past 2 hours. What? I don't know. Dr. Who Cares? Okay then, do you remember that we all agreed that it wasn't spherical? That what wasn't... Oh right, it isn't round at all. Object 55 isn't round. Dr. Who Cares? So you remember it now? Well, no. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I know there is one. It's something you can't remember. And it's not a sphere. Wait a minute. What's not a sphere? Object 55. Object what? Doc, do you remember agreeing that something wasn't shaped like a sphere? Oh, right. It appears to be possible to remember what SCP-055 is not negations of fact and to repeatedly deduce its existence from these memories. Personnel involved in surveying 19055-127BXE reporting moderate levels of disorientation and psychological trauma associated with cycles of repeated memory and forgetfulness of SCP-055. However, no long-term behavioral or health problems were observed, and psych assessments of survey personnel show consistent reports of this distress fading over time. Recommendations: it may be worthwhile to post at least one staff member at each site capable of remembering the existence of SCP-055 to each critical site. Why are some SCP articles just strange? Item number: SCP-056 Object Class equals brown container proceeds. SCP-056 is to be kept in a room of its choosing with whatever furnishings it expresses desire for. All one personnel and above may interact with SCP-056 at any time they choose for a time length not exceeding 2 hours. The subject is to be guarded by a minimum of 3 security staff at all times, with swift changes every 4 hours. Each guard is to be armed with non-lethal tranquilizer pistols, or with no less than 1,500 microliters of cardiac tranquilizer. Any irregularities in personnel and staff developed by extended exposure to SCP-056 will result in psychological examination and relocation to site data expunged. The subject is to be allowed access to any object it desires with the exceptions of weapons, communication devices, and internet connection and other SCP objects. It may wander in research sector, as it will, but never allowed to access floors with exits. In the event of an emergency or if SCP-056 becomes violent, it is to be subdued and contained in its room if possible. At no time should accident personnel attempt to harm SCP-056. See Addendum 2B. Description: SCP-056 is a being of variable size, general appearance which changes in response to the environment around it, specifically in regards to living and sentient beings. Its most common form is that is of a handsome man in his middle 20s, dressed in a garb of similar appearance to that of the personnel guarding it, but of higher quality and aesthetic value. However, it has been recorded as taking these forms. A large, well-groomed Labrador Retriever, when exposed to Dr. Beep's dog. A woman of similar appearance to famous actress Scarlett Johansson, when passing by a group of younger female staff. A female doctor in a white lab coat when speaking with various researchers. When asked to take an IQ test, the subject scored nearly 30 points higher than the highest scoring researcher available. A male bodybuilder who was able to lift nearly 250 kilograms twice on a bench press machine in the sector's gym. He was 30 kilograms heavier than the strongest security guard's maximum of the time. A couch of extremely pleasing aesthetic value when left alone in the subject's room. These changes will generally occur the moment all people in the area lose focus on the subject, which occurs immediately upon exposure to a new object or person. See Addendum 3. Filming these changes has proved inconsequential, as any viewing of the tapes will feed suffer the same momentary confusion. Clothing will also change during this time, though 056 is yet to manifest any sort of tools or weapons. It is theoretically impossible to view SCP-056 as the original or natural form. When left in an empty concrete zone in the closed-loop video surveillance, it took on the form of a higher quality camera and appeared to monitor the camera watching it. Further attempts to use its natural form revealed that when alone it had no readable life signs, including body temperature, heartbeat, or weight. It is assumed by researchers that it could not exist without any sort of perception. Personnel in contact with the subject often report feeling jealous or unsatisfied, yet will often give a great deal of positive and negative attention to SCP-056, which can be predicted by their personality type. Security staff will often claim that they wish to follow the subject command, even if they dislike it or its current form. While researchers in extended contact with it will often try to argue it and verbally abuse it, which usually results in the subject sending them out in shame. SCP-056 is quite capable of speech and can apparently communicate in any language, though will not only show fluency in over 200 dialects, including those invented by cryptographers and hobbyists. It frequently traces staff around the woods to stay, and though it is generally willing to do whatever is asked of it, so long as the inquiring does so in a submissive way. It expresses interest in magazines, fashion, automobiles, theoretical science, sports, and a multitude of other objects, usually expressing greater knowledge and understanding of the topic than the person communicating with it. Personnel generally become angry, disenchanted, or disgusted with SCP-056 after speaking with it for great lengths of time. Though they will try to speak with it again if possible. When questioned about other SCPs, it showed fear and occasionally hatred and refused to speak about any of them, even objects classified as safe. Additional, a subject was found to be working with a clothing design company, Redact. After an unusual number of homicide, suicide, mental breakdowns, when working around SCP-056, when Class E personnel attempted to detain it, the mannerisms throughout is changed into what appeared to be the form of data expunged, resulting in the deaths of 17 agents and 10 civilians. The incident was covered up by claiming as an employee suffering from psychopathy brought a firearm to work and attacked other workers. Then and one, those were level 4 clearance and above, refer to document 956-09, document 956-0, audio recording of the first encounter with SCP-056. Begin tape. Agent Beep.
Hey, isn't it whatever you are? You're under arrest for murder.
No, go away. Clicking noises. Agent has drawn his weapon. Agent,
you need to come with us right now.
You don't want to do that, you stupid little man. Expressions of surprise, presumably from onlookers.
The expletive looks just like data expunged.
Gunshots and screaming. Tape ends. Addendum 2-A. See document 956-1. Document 956-1. Behavioral testing for SCP-056. Testing procedures data expunged. Addendum 2-B results. 1. Nearly close personnel armed with knife. Intent to harm subject. Subject appears as a lean, fit man of approximately 20 years of age. Subject proceeded to determine kill all personnel. 1 female Class D personnel bearing a bottle of fine wine intended to offer subject gift. Subject appears as a beautiful woman, accepted the gift, and upon tasting, put it back in the personnel's face before waving her away. 2 Class E personnel, both male and female, carrying nothing and intending nothing. Subject appears as a beautiful woman and well-tailored business. So examine both personnel and dismiss them. 10 Class D personnel, all male, intending and carrying nothing. Subject appears as a beautiful woman dressed in a low-cut red dress. After approximately 10 minutes, all personnel began showing signs of irritation. 5 minutes later, broke out in fighting. Subject waved them away after watching them for 7 minutes. 1 female level 4 personnel, voted to be the best-looking woman on facility, carried nothing, intended nothing. Subject appears as an extremely aesthetically pleasing woman and displayed a large lexicon and understanding of management skills. Spoke to personnel for nearly 90 minutes until personnel became infuriated and left the room. Addendum 3, note from Dr. Kenneth. I was recently informed that SCP-056 had repeatedly requested access to the internet. When I asked 056 about this, it told me that we were unable to provide it with enough funds, so that it wanted the whole world to know its face. Needless to say, its request was denied. Item number SCP-057, object class status, relevant name, please. SCP-Site-57 has been confirmed as facility to facilitate SCP-057's relocation is not feasible. It is highly improbable that any outside knowledge of the artifact exists based on the circumstances of its discovery, and thus security is minimal consent. No containment procedures are required other than for the prevention of unauthorized access. All research will be delegated to Dr. Lewis and Dr. Bolton unless further specified. Due to the irretrievability of those placed inside SCP-057, access will be granted with the approval of no fewer than 2 members of both. By description, SCP-057 is a subterranean chamber with an approximate cylindrical height of 3 meters and a diameter of 18 meters. Artifact is comprised of impenetrable slate-colored stone. Inside the chamber, redundant or parallel pipe monoliths extending from floor to ceiling that slide in various directions while SCP-057 is active. It was discovered several meters below beep on beep during the construction of a secure containment enclosure for SCP beep. Consequently, SCP beep was found in multiple locations at site beep. An entrance to the chamber is located on the northeast side. When the human enters, the door shuts and the walls inside the chamber will move in such a way as to require the subject constant attention to maintain a safe course of the artifact. The monolith slowly open and close until the subject either surrenders or exhausts themselves, at which time SCP-057 crushes them and reverts to its original inactive state for a period of approximately 20 seconds. This process lasts only as long as the subject inside SCP-057 is alive and has been proven to take days. The extended testing proposals to gauge the limits of the artifact have been discouraged. All tests on animals, machines, and cadavers have proven futile. Only a living, breathing human is able to initiate this process upon entering SCP-057. Instance 057-1. During the activation of the artifact, a worker employed by the Foundation for the Unearthing Process entered the chamber without permission at roughly 12:57 a.m. on beep. Upon entering the artifact, the door shut and a dull rumble began to emanate from chamber. Standard lockdown procedure was initiated, and all personnel in the vicinity were evacuated. A remote-operated vehicle, ROV, was deployed in order to safely determine the cause of the event and gauge any possible threat of SCP-057. Apart from the rumbling noise produced following the event, no anomalous effects outside of the artifact were observed. At 4:32 a.m. the following day, SCP-057 suddenly shut down and returned to its original state as the door shifted back into its open position. At 5:32 a.m. the area was declared safe and the evacuation process was completed without further incident. The worker in question was never recovered. Experiment log 057-1. Experiment log 057-1. I control the command for the purpose of exploring the interior of SCP-057 was requested. Just listen to Watson on B, and shortly thereafter by the 05 cancelled. Indeed, Hand 21 was equipped with a radio able to send and receive transmissions to and from the dock. Upon entering the chamber, the artifact behaves as expected, with the door abruptly shutting behind D1021. The following is a transcript of the communication between Dr. Lewis, Dr. Watson, and D1021. Hey, didn't tell me the door was closed. We're closed. Can you open it again? This place gave me the heebie-jeebies. Negative. Please proceed as advised and describe your surroundings. Okay, well, there are a bunch of stone columns in here and they keep rearranging their positions. D1021, what is your status? Come, Snooker, what made them moving around and raining them so they... What is it? The ones behind me are closing off, the ones ahead of me are spreading out. I don't like this. I can't see the door anymore. Stay calm, move with the columns, and you'll be fine. My son's still gonna crush me. I have to keep moving or they'll crush me. How long am I gonna be in here? It'll be over soon. You're doing fine. Just keep moving. Oh, I'm trapped in here. I'm trapped and they're gonna crush me. And do you want? Hey, listen. Get a hold of yourself. The columns will eventually lead you to an exit. Please relax and continue. Subject calms down noticeably. So, there's an exit? Thank God, I was scared there for a second that I've never superfluous dialogue expunged. Yeah, keep it up and you'll be right as rain. You're doing a great job. You'll have no trouble making parole once this is over. The experiment continues without incident for another 41 minutes. At this point, D1021 becomes noticeably distressed again. I saw how big this place is from the outside. Am I going in a circle? Negative. Continue to proceed through the opening columns. You should find the exit. There is no exit! You son of a trapped me in here and now I'm trapped! Subject begins to... When you remove the expletives from that sentence, it just sounds so... Subject begins to hyperventilate again. You are trapped, D1021. Continue to the exit, or you'll be forced to... Forced to what? There's nothing you can do to me. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. D1021. Panicking will only exacerbate your situation. Focus! D1021 breaks into tears. He continues to cry for the next 2 hours as he makes his way through the columns and does not reply to any questions. Eventually, the crying ceases. So, this is it. I'm gonna die. I guess I'll just stop and close my eyes. Maybe it won't be so bad. I can't. D1021 continues to repeat this for several minutes. Eventually, he trails off and falls silent. D1021 stops in his tracks, breathing slowly but heavily. Faint sobbing is audible. D1021 proceed through the room as advised. D1021's gentle sobbing abruptly cuts off. Brief, loud cracking and snapping noises are heard before the transmission is lost. Strangely, D1021 did not report any sightings of the remains of the activation worker lost in event 057-1. Accordingly, no efforts were made for the recovery of the 1021's remains. As a result of this inconclusive data, the reclassification of SCP-057 to Euclid is pending. I'm gonna have to end the stream here because I think dinner is coming soon. Sorry, bye.